You're not just some reckless rookie, YOLOing your portfolio, ready to risk it all on some shiny new coin. You're on Robinhood now, trading ETFs, tracking the S&P, working that DCA. You're breaking free from bots, bankers, and all that bull. You're doing it all, and on your terms. Because no one runs your money like you. Stocks and ETFs offered by Robinhood Financial LLC. Member SIPC. Crypto offered by Robinhood Crypto LLC. All investing involves risk.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
You are listening to the Flagship Podcast with your hosts, Joe Lanza.
I'm on fire, Rich! You were on fire before, and I'm on fire now!
And Rich Crage.
Wonderful Christmas Time?
Yes, it was on earlier today when I was driving home from work.
It's the worst Christmas song that's ever been recorded.
It might be the worst song ever recorded. Rhythmically, it's terrible. The lyrics are awful. It's just everything about that song. Legitimately the dirt. I mean, it might be the worst song ever created.
And we are live on the Flagship Podcast. I am Rich. He is Joe. Joe, what's happening? How are you?
No, how are you?
I'm doing well. Doing well.
Great.
Got a little Wednesday Flagship.
Yes.
Always brings in the big numbers. So thank you to the real ones that are not watching Tony Khan's counter-programmed All Elite Wrestling Dynamite tonight on TBS and instead spending a night with us. Talking about NXT Deadline, All Japan Junior Battle of Glory, and whatever Freedoms is doing for their Christmas show. You know what? This is the real show. You know what, Tony? All right. Kind of
these whenever we do this, these phonies always show up at like 9:01. Right when the show ends.
The numbers are great. Yeah, that's chart. And don't think that we don't see you. You are seen. We see you, and we know that you're a 9:01. You pop in here. Hey, what's going on? What did I miss? Well, you missed a great show. You.
Bastards. Yeah, you know what? Who needs you? Don't even show up.
Just boot them. Just boot them out.
Yeah, go listen.
I would need them. They're $10 subscribers. I think we do need them. I would prefer to continue to have them.
Yeah, well, we should find a way to block them out if they're not in at the start of the show.
You're only allowed if you start at the beginning? Yeah,
and they can listen to the edited version like the plebes later on in the week. Fair. If they're not here at the start of the show, because I mean, come on, you could always DVR Dynamite. I mean, how important is that?
Right, you can't DVR this.
So,
I mean, sure, the replay will be up on YouTube, but I mean, that doesn't.
We'll just cut out everything good. How about that?
That's the best idea, actually, is do an edited show where we just mangle it to only the worst parts are left in. And then you're like, well, hey, you missed the live show. Not only does that increase $10 subscribers, because it's like, hey, our show stinks if you don't pay us $10. But then those people know that, they've betrayed us, and then we've turned our back on them as we should.
Yes. So I think that's how we should handle it. No one has more disdain for our viewers than we do.
do. I know.
We're always talking shit about the listeners.
Have you met a few of these people? I mean, come on, they're
absolute animals. Let me tell you,
they're animals.
Every last one of them.
Everyone that I've met. I mean, I'm sure there's some good ones out there, but every one of you that I've met is just.
Yeah. Don't worry. We're going to edit all this out. So.
Right. You won't even. Yeah. See, a lot of you are not even listening because you're watching this stupid show on TBS. Turner Broadcast. This is the real stuff here. So this will all get edited out, and you'll just hear us be all cheery and go, "Hey, how's it going, Joe? Hey, how you doing, Rich? All right, let's talk about Final Battle."
Yeah, and you're never going to hear it. So, and that's what you get for not showing up on time. Quite frankly, though, Rich, I am surprised that there's that all of the usual listeners aren't here and that anybody is watching Dynamite. Have you seen wrestling ratings lately? Have you seen? I'm going to go over them. Maybe you're not paying as close attention as maybe I am. This is just the last week. of wrestling ratings. Are you ready for this?
Let's go. Yeah. I didn't know if this was like an elaborate bit. You're like, hey, you seen this? You've been reading about this? You know, like you're a late show host or whatever, talking about headlines. But I thought it was a bit. Okay, no, you're doing this for real. Let's do it. Yeah, let's go.
No, I'm like Jay Leno.
Yeah, I thought you were like, yeah, you've been seeing this? You've been hearing about this? You've been reading this? You know, a cut to Kevin Eubanks, going as he taps his guitar. You know, like that's what I thought I was getting here. I thought I was the Kevin Eubanks, and I was like, oh, all right, yeah. You're like, what's the deal with television ratings? Am I right?
Have you heard about this Joey Buttafuoco, Rich?
Right, that's right. Yeah, got himself in some trouble. Hugh Grant really got himself in a pickle. Am I right? You've been seeing this? You've been reading about this?
Tugging the collar, right? You know.
Who's the David Letterman guy? What was his name? Paul something.
Paul
right?
Schaefer.
Paul Schaefer. Yeah, he would also do like he would drum it while it was happening too. He'd get like
no. He had the keyboard.
Oh, the keyboard. That's right. He had the keyboard. Right.
Keyboard. Yeah. I love how we picked two news stories from 1992.
Right, Hugh Grant and Joey Buttafuoco.
Joey Buttafuoco, yeah. So,
yeah, Hugh Grant's a little. That was like 1995, right? Right.
Don't try. Listen, awful dated story. Don't try to.
Yeah, there are listeners who have no idea what we're talking about. They're like, what Hugh Grant story? They're currently feverishly Googling to figure out what Hugh Grant story we're talking about. First off, who's Hugh Grant? And secondly, what's the story with Hugh Grant? And you'll find
I gotta say, picking up a $20 hooker when you've got prime Elizabeth
You're Hugh Grant
Hurley at home.
You're Hugh Grant.
No, but he's got prime Elizabeth Hurley at home. That's the other thing. Google Prime.
I don't think she's ever left. I don't think she's ever left the Prime. We've had this discussion before.
Yeah, but Google
that Prime's
Prime
still going. No, that Prime is. I'd argue that Prime is still. Well, is it not? This is the same conversation we had last time, right? Let's see. No. You're fine. She's fine. Not Prime. Okay, I'm with you. I will now allow you that. Yes, Prime. She's not what she was in her prime, but she's got to be like 60. So good for her.
Prime Elizabeth Hurley has got to be top 5 for me. Top 5 all time. That's how high I would rank that. How high would you rank prime Elizabeth Hurley?
That's upper echelon for sure.
That is Pantheon tier, right? Prime Elizabeth Hurley. And this man's picking up $20 hookers.
He could just go anywhere and say, "Hello, I am Hugh Grant."
Yeah, I think that's why they sometimes go for the prostitutes. Yeah, they want to be found out, or they don't want to be, So
didn't work out great.
Didn't work.
Backfired for Hugh.
You want to break down the Long Island Lolita and Joey Buttafuoco? Or
sure, I'd love to. I don't know if I know all the details of the Joey Buttafuoco. So yeah, do you want to give us the cliff notes on Big Joe?
Should we do a deep dive on Joey Buttafuoco? I would love to do that, honestly.
He got involved in wrestling at some point, didn't he? Or was it just celebrity boxing or something?
Boxing. We can dig up all the old New York Posts and really go deep on Buttafuoco. No, he was banging a teenager behind his wife's back.
That's right. Yeah, I can't.
And then he tried to end things with the teenager, and she shot his wife in the face. So that was the Joey Buttafuoco scandal, circa whatever year that was. But what made it so fascinating was he was this typical, Long Island Italian guy.
He's exactly what you think. If you don't know what Joey Buttafuoco looks like, don't even Google him. Just close your eyes. He's exactly what you think Joey Buttafuoco, a man named Joseph Buttafuoco, would look like.
Close your eyes. Picture a Long Island Italian guy named Joey Buttafuoco in the early 90s who is also a mechanic.
Yes.
Picture
and you got
that.
It. Don't Google it. You got it. You're already there.
That's him. You've nailed it. If you've pictured that in your head, I guarantee you he looks exactly like you're picturing. So yeah, he that was definitely some late night fodder during its time. But
when statutory rape was a joke.
Amy Fisher, I believe, was the shooter. Amy Fisher.
Okay.
She in one of the many television movie versions of the Joey Buttafuoco story, Amy Fisher was played by Alyssa Milano, which may have been the most perfect casting.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Since we discussed Dan Lauria playing Vince Lombardi, which you can't get any more perfect than that. I think that Amy Fisher, portrayed by Alyssa Milano, who's also top 5 Joe Lanza Pantheon tier, by the way, prime Alyssa Milano.
Oh, for sure. Oh, absolutely.
So
she's definitely in the top 5. You know what I mean? I was kind of hemming and hawing on Hurley. Milano is a no doubt or all time top 5, all time.
All right, she's like the holy demon army of your top 5.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
You don't have to think about it.
No,
She's just in.
No, in. Yeah.
Just in. Yeah. No, I understand.
And
Look,
still.
No, listen.
Still not out of the top 10, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, absolutely would, sir. I absolutely would. No doubt about it. So did you hear about his wrestling ratings?
No, hold on a minute. I didn't. There is a wrestling connection with Joey Buttafuoco. Do you remember that? So we said no, it's a boxing thing, but it's a wrestling thing as well. So here's media appearances for Joey Buttafuoco. Long Wikipedia entry, by the way, for this. You got to scroll down a little bit to get to. In 2002, Buttafuoco participated in celebrity boxing, originally slated to oppose John Wayne Bobbitt. You've been hearing about this? You've been seeing about this? Guy got his dick cut off. That's that guy who dropped out after being arrested for domestic abuse. So all really cool people involved in these celebrity boxings.
Hold on a second. Freeze. John Wayne Bobbitt got his dick cut off for being an asshole towards women and then still got arrested for domestic abuse again at some point. You would think
he'd learn his lesson and not be an asshole.
You would think getting your gimmick cut off would learn that lesson for you.
Apparently not for one John Wayne Bobbitt. So
incredible.
He was replaced, and the replacement was China. Pro wrestler China. Yes. So Buttafuoco, despite being booed, I don't know why that's relevant to the discussion at all. Buttafuoco, despite being booed, won the fight in a majority decision, 29-28, 29-27, 28-28, in case you're curious on the scoring. I'm very glad that Wikipedia has kept this celebrity boxing scoring between Buttafuoco and Joni Lauer. But Buttafuoco, despite being booed, I don't know why that's relevant, but he won the fight, majority decision against China. So there is your wrestling reference to Joey Buttafuoco and pro wrestling. So now you may do your actual bit that you were trying to do.
I got to tell you, I think that Buttafuoco probably would have taken out Bobbitt too.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, he would have destroyed him.
If he had his cardio, because Buttafuoco was like a thick guy.
He was like a thick guy, but he looks like he's been in a few fights before.
He looks like he's been in many fights. Yeah, that's why I'm going with like
John Wayne Bobbitt's. He's all fucking. He's a pussy, you know what I mean? Like,
I feel like Buttafuoco's a street guy.
Yeah. He's got that, and he looks like he looks like your uncle. Like I mean you, as in you, Joe, your uncle. I don't have an uncle that looks like Joey Buttafuoco, but you definitely do.
I have a couple uncles that resemble Joey Buttafuoco.
And those guys are all strong. They're just like old man strong. Yeah. Like they give you the handshake and you're like, oh man, reel it in there, bud.
I've got an uncle who looks like Joey Buttafuoco, who every time it comes up reminds us that he sacked Joe Theismann in high school and damn near ended his career.
So he's like, it wasn't that injury that almost killed him. It was my sack that almost killed Joe Theismann. I love it.
Damn near ended his career are the exact words every time he tells the story. Time. Joe Theismann, of course.
Does he tell like a new? Yeah, he played a significant career after that.
He played for South River High School in New Jersey. Joe Theismann, and my uncle claims he sacked him his senior year and quote damn near ended his career. And picture Joey Buttafuoco saying that because that's what my uncle looked like. That's your uncle. And it just tracks, right? Like
absolutely, yeah.
Of course, my uncle
would be chomping on a cigar or something like that, you know.
Of course, my uncle would be a defensive end that looks like Joey Buttafuoco.
Right. Who's still clean to glory from 46 years ago.
Probably more than that.
Yeah, actually, at this point, more. Jesus, yeah, you're right.
That had to be the 60s. Joe Theismann in high school.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he was a prime. Yeah, I don't know. You'd probably answer that question better than I would about it.
He broke his leg in '85, the LT game.
But that was already pretty deep. That was already pretty deep in his career.
Deep into his career. I think here. Let's see when he played at Notre Dame. Joe Theismann. Did you know Joe Theismann, Rich, pronounced his name Theismann until he got to Notre Dame, and he changed it to Theismann because it rhymed with Heisman, and he thought it would increase his chances of winning the award.
No way. Is that real?
It's a fact. Yes.
Wow. That's.
I
want to say that's dorky, but.
Yeah, he was drafted in the 4th round of the 1971 NFL draft. He played at Notre Dame from 68 to 70.
Okay.
So he played in high school from 63 to 67?
Yeah. So, okay, mid-60s.
Yeah, so we're talking mid-60s. That's what? That's a 60-year-old story that I still hear.
Every time.
Anytime, like, the NFL comes up, he'll work it in somehow.
And he's just waiting to do it, too. Everybody must know at this point, too, right?
We've all heard it a million times. It's one of them stories. Like, he's not doing it as a bit. Like, he thinks and he says it the same way every time too. Damn near ended his career. All right, Uncle Tony, we get it. Yes, his name is Tony.
Of course.
Why wouldn't it
Uncle
be?
Tony? Of course, his name's Uncle Tony. Yeah,
Uncle Tony, who looks like Joey Buttafuoco. So, so Rich, have you seen these TV ratings? Rich, have you seen? These
I haven't.
TV ratings?
Yeah, I have. They're not.
This is a full week of just atrocious TV ratings across the board. Last week's Dynamite, a 0.26. 0.26, Rich Craich. Now, let me ask you this. They did well the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. They did their best number ever for the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, the week before that. But the week before that, they had a down number. So if Dynamite doesn't do a good number tonight, okay, we might be in for like a 3-week trend if you throw out the Thanksgiving number, right? Thanksgiving number,
which is the weirdest one. Honestly, that's almost the weirdest one of all of these, is because they were, like you said, they were kind of trending in a not very good way, and then all of a sudden the show where they're supposed to do terrible, because they always do terrible. It's the biggest bar day of the year. Everyone's out doing something. That key demo is either out partying or at a bar doing whatever, getting ready for Thanksgiving, whatever. And that was like a good rating, and that kind of stunned me and surprised me when that rating came out. And I was like, oh, okay, well then they're just going to kind of keep riding this momentum. And then the next week, which should be a decent number, what we saw last week, was just absolutely awful. So yeah, you're right. I don't know. It's going to be very, very fascinating to see what this week does.
Hey, I need to do a nurse run-in. Close your eyes.
I'm not closing my eyes, Joe.
Close your eyes.
I'm closing my eyes. Okay.
She brought home
sorry,
a cat.
Joe. I hope did you bring home a cat? Please don't.
No.
Oh, okay. Did you bring home another dog?
No.
Okay, good.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Okay, look at me.
Uh-oh, she got bangs.
Does it look good?
It looks good, yeah.
Genuine reaction.
It looks good. It looks good. It looks good.
Are you saying it looks good because I'm your wife or because it looks good?
It looks good.
I think I pull it off better than you thought I
Yeah,
was.
yeah, you do.
To be fair, this... Don't me. This morning I was like, I'm getting my hair cut, and you're like, no bangs.
Yeah, I did. That's a shoot, Joe. I did say that.
Bangs stink.
But I think it turned out better than you
It
thought.
looks okay. Yeah, they look solid. They look solid. They look solid.
Okay or good?
Okay to good. Okay to good.
So, moderate.
More towards the good than the okay.
Okay, fairly moderate.
Closer to good.
I know Craich. He hates this haircut.
Closer to good. Closer to good.
Okay.
He despises
How do you
this
like
haircut.
The rest of the haircut then.
The rest of the hair is very short. Shorter than usual for
I
you.
did not think it was going to get this
Yeah,
short.
you got kind of
It
short.
happened.
Yeah, you got kind of short.
She was just cutting away, and she's like, ah! And I was like, oh, okay, cool.
You went nuts.
I thought she was going to cut an inch off my hair.
I'm glad that we're having this conversation
She
here.
cut
Yeah.
3 inches off my hair.
That's
I
a
was
lot of
like,
inches.
Okay, I thought
Yeah.
we were just going like 1 inch, but here we are. Fuck it, you already cut the bangs. Go for it. So, that's all. Okay.
There you go. Good. Moderate to, what did I say?
Fairly moderate.
I think it was a little bit better than fairly
Hi,
moderate.
little beer, you want that?
No, okay. No. Get out of here. You got to hit the bricks.
3 1/4 star haircut.
Right about there.
Yeah. So yeah, I knew you didn't like it. I knew it. I could tell. I could hear it in your voice. We've been doing this 11 years. That was a 3 1/4 star haircut in your eyes. That's when I talk about a match I really liked, and you don't want to break my heart that you didn't really like it. That's the same tone.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, it was all right. I like parts of it.
Yeah.
I like parts.
Yeah, I could tell that you didn't like that haircut. I could tell. I've known you longer than her, so I could tell.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
I could tell that you didn't like that haircut. Yeah, so Dynamite, that stunk. How about the Rampage with the 0.08 and 361,000 viewers? What was funny was when Brandon Thurston questioned Khan on the Rampage numbers today. Khan he offered no spin. He just admitted that they were terrible.
Yeah.
And said, we got to study what used to draw before and try to do that again.
Well,
and
having good shows with good wrestlers on it is probably a good way to start.
All hands on deck, he said, with the healthy roster. Here's the problem with that. He said that last time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I thought I was in a bizarre world where I read that quote, the all hands on deck, and we're going to focus, and this Friday, and I'm like, man, that sounds awfully familiar. And I went back to our last analysis of after All Out, right, or before All Out, and the same thing was said, and I was like, all right. Like, we all kind of thought that would be it. And I think that maybe there was a week or two, and I'm forgetting I don't really, remember all the Rampage shows or whatever, but I do recall there being like one or two Rampages that were like, all right, this is pretty good. There's some stakes here. And then right back to the normal. And that's kind of what's always happened with Rampage. And it's why people, when Rampage first got announced, people said, hey, is this a B show? And he fought back on it. No, it's not a B show. And we've always talked about it was the CM Punk show for a long, long time. And he carried that show. And that was a big reason. But even during the Punk run, it started to kind of lose a little bit of its steam and lose a little bit of a momentum. And it just kind of became... it was a B show, and that's what it's been now for quite a while. And I don't know how you get people regularly watching that again. And I think it was Brandon, the aforementioned Brandon Thurston, who brought up one of the best points that I can remember about Rampage and where it is in the pecking order is that none of the 7 Young Bucks Death Triangle matches are on Rampage, not a single one.
Yeah,
and you would think if like you're desperately trying to get people to start watching that show again and take it as a serious show and not as a B show, which is what it's been, match 4 can't be on Rampage, match 5 can't be, you know what I mean? Like do you want to have your top ones? Yeah, of course you want them to be on Dynamite. You want to draw ratings to Dynamite, but yeah, just having none of them on Rampage was definitely kind of strange. And yeah, now we're, you watch Rampage and it's Cole Carter and Darby Allin's kind of been the quote unquote big star of Rampage lately, but that's not enough. You need a little bit more than Darby.
Last time he said, I got my healthy roster, and we're gonna. He put Mox on it 2 weeks in a row.
That must be that's what I'm thinking of then. The Moxley thing.
He had 2 Mox matches in a row, I think 2 weeks in a row, and then it was just kind of back to the same old shit. But he gave the same answer this time of, I got my healthy roster back. It's got to be all hands on deck. But he gave that answer last time, and it was all talk, no action. If I'm like a Warner Brothers Discovery person, I'm thinking to myself, well, what are we doing here? Now we're doing 0.08s. I mean, it was one thing when we were doing 0.15s. We can live with that at 10 o'clock. That's not that bad. Okay, we don't want to live in the 0.2s anymore. All right, but we can't live at 0.08s. I mean, that's just a really 361,000 viewers. I mean, that's just a really poor number. So they've got to do something about that. But I think that horrendous Rampage number has really obscured something else because the SmackDown number came out the same day. And this was an FS1 SmackDown because of, I want to say it was maybe the Pac-12 championship game. I'm not 100% positive.
Yeah, I don't recall what was on Friday. Maybe somebody in the No chat room can let us know.
It's a college football game of some type. But 902,000 viewers in the 0.25. And what I find interesting about this is basically the same range that SmackDown does every time they're moved to FS1. And it really shows you the power of being on network TV, because if SmackDown were on FS1 every week and on a somewhat, for the sake of the argument, an equal playing field as Dynamite, even though TBS has slightly more viewers than FS1, it's not a super significant difference in total viewership, total homes rather. SmackDown and Dynamite would really be neck and neck. And I feel like SmackDown would probably, because if SmackDown were on FS1 every week, the number would be a little higher than these random one-offs because
people would get used to it. They would know. Yes. Yeah.
Correct. So you have to factor that in. Plus, the weeks that they're on FS1, obviously that means there's a big sporting event on Fox and there's monster competition. So they would do bigger numbers than they've done during the one-offs. And I do think they would probably beat Dynamite most weeks. I don't think they'd beat them every week. And I think it would be sort of a real, back and forth battle between SmackDown and Dynamite if SmackDown were on FS1 regularly. And I don't think enough is, we have enough data points now with SmackDown being on FS1 to confidently say that. And I don't think enough people talk about that. And I know I've made this point before, and I know people thought I was nuts the last time, but if I'm a Fox executive and I'm paying attention to this shit, I think I let WWE walk and I go after AEW in the next round for Friday nights on Fox, because you're going to get them at a significant discount.
Right. You're not going to pay $1 billion for them or whatever you're going to have to pay for WWE this time around.
And whatever that discount is that you get is going to make up for the difference in ratings, because I do not think Dynamite would put up SmackDown level numbers on Fox, but you're also getting it at a significantly cheaper price. And when you do all the math on that, you might come out ahead. You might come out ahead when you like you're saying, you don't have to pay them $1 billion, and the ratings are slightly lower, but you're getting comparable ad rates and all those sorts of things.
And then you get rid of the messy thing that we know has been a point of contention from day one is that WWE is kind of double dipping here. They got half of their stuff in Fox and half of their stuff in USA and NBC Universal or whatever. And it's like, there's a little bit of there's always a weirdness of that. And we've seen it come up a few times where Fox, it has been bandied about that, like Fox executives are like, wait a minute, like, why are they getting this? Or, the same thing on USA, like, wait, hold on, why are they getting this? And they're both paying a pretty penny for WWE. So it kind of gets rid of that if you just, buy all that stuff, buy Rampage, buy Dynamite, take it all, put Rampage on FS1, put Dynamite on Fox. I'm with you. It would be a lot cleaner. But then you get into the discussion of, does Turner have any actual stake in AEW or with I don't know. And that
well, I'm working off the assumption they don't, of course. But if I look, if I'm Tony Khan, okay, I have Mookie give them a call, or whoever does this.
Of course.
I make the call myself to Fox and I say, look, you can get us for 60% of the cost and we'll deliver 80% of the rating. Right? You at least have to make that call.
Sure.
Because if you get Dynamite on the network, you might double your viewership or somewhere in that neighborhood. And of course that means on paper, more pay-per-view buys, sell more tickets, sell more merchandise, all of those things that come along with having double the audience. So, that's, again, I've been talking about this for 6 months. I think that's something to keep an eye on in the next round. But we'll see. Raw, 1.536 and a 0.41, down 8% in total viewers.
Did you see that drop? That chart, that quarter-hour chart.
The third hour. Oh, my God.
Oh.
People will lose their fucking minds when a Dynamite main event loses 10,000 viewers. But when the third hour of Raw falls completely off the fucking table to the point you have to expand the fucking chart to fit it, no one says a peep. It's incredible. It's like Young Bucks, the Elite, and the Death Triangle main event last week lost like whatever it was. The same range that main events that the eighth quarter hour often lose viewers. And people acted like, that was a true test of who knows what they're talking about with ratings and who doesn't. The Dynamite quarter hours, when the people who were going on and on about the Elite and the Death Triangle match bombing in the eighth quarter hour, when very often we all know, people who pay attention know this, that final quarter hour of most of these shows lose very often will lose viewers. That's not unusual at all. So, the people who harped on about that, right there is an indicator those are people you don't need to listen to when it comes to ratings. But the entire third hour of Raw, I mean, for people who have access to the quarters with WrestleNomics, or maybe the Observer had them. I don't even know this week if that Observer wouldn't have come out yet, I guess. What a disaster that third hour was. And, that speaks to a large point, Rich. This bloodline shit. And we're not going to do the bloodline. Listen,
we're not doing that again. Yeah, but
we probably will, but we're going to try not to do that again
this week. But soon again, we will touch base on the greatest story in wrestling history that's making anybody watch the show more than they were before.
Yeah, this thing doesn't fucking draw. This is the Raw after the pay-per-view didn't do well. This Raw was the lowest total viewership since Halloween, and we all know the Halloween shows always do terrible viewership. This week's Raw was the low, so it went down from last week. Okay, the SmackDown, we talked about, the 0.25 on FS1 didn't do a great number the week before either. Okay, the pay-per-view itself, Dave Meltzer tracks the Google searches, and for years and years and years, he has proven that there is a correlation between Google searches and pay-per-view buys. Boxing, wrestling, MMA, right? This is something that Dave believes in, and he has proven that there's a correlation. The Google searches were not great for Survivor Series, Okay. The initial Survivor Series pay-per-view numbers, and I get it, pay-per-view is not a major revenue stream for WWE, but it is still a helpful indicator in overall interest in a given show.
Right. The scale has changed. The scale isn't relevant. Like what was the amount being bought in 1998 is not relevant to the amount being bought in 2022, but the data is still relevant. The data of how did this show do compared to one 2 months ago, 3 months ago, 4 months ago, 5 months ago.
Because if you look at WWE pay-per-view buys, traditional pay-per-view buys, it's still the biggest shows that do the most buys and the B shows that do lesser amount of buys. So there's definitely a correlation between traditional pay-per-view buys and interest in a show, which is why Meltzer still looks at it, because it's relevant to gauge interest,
right?
Even though it's not a prime revenue driver. And, because these shows will do less than, they're doing well under, 6 figures in terms of total buys because most people watch on Peacock, but you still have people who either aren't hardcore enough fans to subscribe to Peacock and maybe they watch the wrestling now and then and they get hooked by a pay-per-view. You still have people who have poor internet service and don't trust the streaming, so they order the pay-per-views. And you still have people who just can't get internet. My in-laws, where they live, 40 minutes from me in Texas, can't buy internet. They no one will service them because of where they live. They literally cannot buy it. If they want internet, they have to have a tower built on their roof and go through that expense and that hassle. It's the only way they can get it. They cannot have someone come out and provide them internet. So you have a lot of people in rural areas like that might buy pay-per-view. So there's still people out there who are buying pay-per-views. And it does give you, like Rich said, a scaled level of interest in a show. The point here is Survivor Series, when the initial round of numbers came in as the second lowest purchased WWE pay-per-view, only beating the last Saudi show. Now, when the final numbers came out, there was a little bit of a bump, and it finished in the normal range of a B show.
Right.
Does that scream that this bloodline, angle is super hot? Right.
No, and that's, I mean, it's Survivor Series, which hasn't meant anything in a long time. I did a study about that many years ago on Voices of Wrestling, but they clearly intended for it to mean something more by doing the War Games thing, by trying to kind of reinvent Survivor Series as not being Survivor Series, but instead being War Games or whatever. So they clearly put a little bit of muscle behind it to try to make it not just be a B show. And that didn't work. Plus, like you said, we're supposedly watching this greatest wrestling story of all time, one that's hooking people like they've never been hooked before. But nobody knew was watching the show. No one is watching other than the people that were watching before anyway.
There was below average interest in the pay-per-view. Both of the Raws that have followed since have done terrible numbers and dropping, the SmackDowns haven't done great numbers. The Google searches were down. And so how this thing is so great, yet, it's this thing that's like so critically acclaimed, but it obviously it doesn't have, it's not affecting, business in any measurable way. I mean, I'm not making any of this stuff up. So can we maybe pump the brakes a little on how great this is and how it's just, the ratings are in the shitter. And no one cared about the pay-per-view. And I don't give a shit. Let me say something. This Peacock internal document that they fed the Fightful that somehow that mysteriously got into Fightful's hands. I wonder how that's
so strange.
And if you think that's a shot at Fightful, then you don't understand what I'm saying. Okay? People made sure that internal document from Peacock got into the hands of the media, where they were touting all of these. And that's how too, the show didn't do particularly well, because they were, they were getting the PR out. All these goofy numbers. Oh, this Survivor Series was up 26% in total views from the Survivor Series the year before. Peacock has doubled their subscriber base.
And if Dave has mentioned that before, he when that news came out, he kind of said, well, I mean, yeah, Peacock has, double the amount of people that they had last year. So it would stand to reason that, of course, you would double you'd get more people watching if more people have the service. It's not necessarily, and we're in that period now with WWE where, like, you look at we're in a post, like, you can't really analyze their business without kind of digging a little bit deeper. If you just go to the surface level and you just look at stuff that's being said and fed or whatever, like, for a streaming service like that, I'm not going to attribute that I can't attribute that to solely being WWE, interest level is increasing because Peacock in general is doing double, and I'm sure they're feeding the same press releases to people about fucking whatever show that is the new streaming thing on Peacock. Whoa, it's doing this, it's doing that. Like that's just so that was a very interesting thing to come out where without context you go, whoa, okay, that's pretty cool, but knowing what's actually happening, it's like hold on, that's not exactly the same thing.
My very first thought was, all right, why are they pushing? Why are they making sure spin gets into the hands of the media? That was my first thought when I saw that internal document being reported. And now we know why, because you look at all the other indicators and interest in Survivor Series was down on all these other markers. And they put out an internal document that had a bunch of spin on it. I mean, all of their pay-per-views should be up in views because they've doubled their subscriber base. It's just, it doesn't mean anything. In fact, you should be I don't remember if it was exactly 26%, but you should be up way higher than that if you've doubled your subscriber base. So that just reeked of bullshit as soon as I saw that thing going around. And, then you look at some of the deeper numbers. And look, the bottom line here is you can't tell me this is some red hot storyline when you look at the ratings. You can't tell me that. There's no way you can it just
right.
isn't.
You can say, I think this is a good story, or I am interested by this story, but the tripping over yourself to say, this is the greatest. We now have to discuss this as one of the greatest wrestling stories of all time. It's like, hold on.
Now, why is it drawing any money? Now look, Survivor Series sold out, but all their pay-per-views sell out. Okay. I haven't really paid attention to Raw and SmackDown. Maybe they're, selling a lot of tickets too. I don't know. Maybe their live ticket business is good right now, and that might be one area where they're doing okay. But you can't call this a hot storyline until it starts moving business. That's just the way this works. NXT, 543,000 viewers and a 0.13. That's the lowest total viewership since May 31st, down 17%, down 3% in the demo. Another atrocious number, and that's the go-home show for this. What's the name of this PLE we're going to talk about
this
today?
Is NXT DEADL1NE. No, the deadline. It's deadline, but they're putting a 1 instead of the I in deadline. I just misspelled deadline there, but it's deadline with the Iron Survivor Challenge, which we'll talk about in a bit.
Rich, you want bad numbers? I'll give you more bad numbers. You know what Women of Wrestling did this week?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Did anybody watch it? Did the rating come in with 0? Sorry, nobody watched this.
218,000 viewers, a 0.04, their second lowest number ever.
I am surprised it's that high.
That's the end of that.
Is that bad that I'm not surprised?
Now, here's what's interesting about Women of Wrestling. Okay?
Nothing. It's interesting about Women of Wrestling, but carry on.
70% of their viewership are women. Which totally bucks the trend of all over of other television wrestling, where there's really no discernible pattern that women who watch WWE or AEW want to see women wrestlers more than male wrestlers. There's never been any kind of pattern to indicate that. Yet the all women show has 70% female viewership. That's something to, that's something useful that we can get out of the Women of Wrestling before it's promptly canceled at the end of the season, right?
Oh, yeah, because this thing is not lasting. There's just no way.
No, I watched it once, and it was fucking atrocious. It was beyond bad. I mean, completely unwatchable. Just total junk. I couldn't even get through the whole hour. But if you know anything about David McLean and his vision of pro wrestling, it always
sucks.
Junk.
Yeah, it's junk. It's been junk for 30 years now, and it continues to be junk. So,
Impact, Rich.
Oh, no. Don't do them like this.
74,000 viewers, 0.02.
What was that, 74,000?
Yes, sir.
Wait, what did Women of Wrestling did 128?
218,000.
218? And Impact did, what was that again?
74,000. Now, Women of Wrestling reaches far more homes.
Sure, right.
Women of Wrestling, I think, reaches almost 100% of homes in the United States, believe it or not. I think they have the best clearance out of any show other than SmackDown.
I think you're right. Yeah, when you add in all the regional networks and stuff, yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, they're on like syndicated and they're on everywhere. So, I think they have, so you have to take that into account. I think I'd rather do a 0.02 on Axis than a 0.04 with 98% clearance. Right? I mean, I don't know. But I got one more, Rich. New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Oh, no.
Following Impact. You want to guess their demo number?
Okay, so Impact. What was Impact's demo number?
0.02.
0.02.
I think New Japan was featuring action from the G1.
Action from the G1.
Either the semifinal or the final.
Very relevant in mid-December. 0.00, right? It's got to be lower than 0.00. It's got to have fallen off the board, right?
New Japan did 58,000 total viewers and a 0 in the demo.
Yeah.
I believe the first time they've hit the goose egg.
The goose egg in the demo. Yeah. Boy, that's...
Yeah. So something like maybe 10,000 viewers in the demo or something. Maybe, probably less. That reminds me of when the Astros were tanking and they would locally do so few viewers that Nielsen couldn't measure it. And Nielsen can't measure anything lower than 5,000 viewers, I think.
Yeah, so it gave you a shining light of just how bad we're talking here, how few people were actually watching this.
Yeah, so you'd have Astro games where less than 5,000 people in like the fourth biggest city in America were watching. And they'd get an asterisk instead of even a number for their rating during the tank. That's what this New Japan number reminds me of, doing the 0 in the demo. So
yeah, that's that period where everybody was trying to get wrestling on their networks.
Nobody's watching wrestling, man, right now.
It kind of sucks. I'll be honest. Somebody who watches a lot of wrestling every week, it's not great. It's not great all the time.
Well, I mean, why would anyone watch Raw? Like, it stinks. Why would anyone watch Rampage right now? Go out of their way to watch Rampage, right?
Yeah, and 5-month-old New Japan's not exactly, getting me excited.
Yeah.
That impact number is, I mean, and there's some stuff that I like in Impact, and there's things, every time when I check it out, there's like half the show I enjoy and the other half I kind of hate, and it's just, but man, those numbers are just like they may as well just be off the board. They are so irrelevant to the larger wrestling landscape at this point. And that's numbers like that are just it's stunning when you read them, because it's like that this is a company that's now been around for 10 plus years. That's a whole network is basically buoyed by Impact. This whole Access thing is buoyed by Impact, and that's those are the numbers they pull. It's just like, man, what are we? Those are low. Those are low numbers. So low for a weekly. I don't know, man. Yeah, nobody watches wrestling.
Well, I watched the NXT this week, and honest to God, I don't know how anybody watches that show.
I've heard it's improved a lot.
Who are you hearing that from? It's terrible.
A lot of people. Yeah, a lot of people will say that it is improved a lot lately. And is it better than it was during like the worst of the worst NXT 2.0 days? Like, I think that's maybe the comp.
It can't be any worse than what I saw this week. I can't imagine if it's any worse than what I saw. You had Braun Breaker out on a fishing boat for some reason.
What?
I don't know. He's out on a fishing boat on a fucking lake. You've got
is that their like attempt to like humanize him or something? What?
I guess.
Okay.
The problem with NXT is like the same problem. It's a wider problem with WWE, except it's worse than NXT, where every character on the show is just inhuman. They're these cartoonish caricatures of real human beings that don't behave, speak, act, look like humans. You know what I mean? Like Isla Dawn's doing this spooky gimmick where she just doesn't talk like a real person and she makes scary faces, and like I don't know, it's just so passé and old. The Chase University people, that Thea Hale, and it's not her fault because she's doing what they ask her to do. And I do think there's something there with her. There's an obvious charisma, but doing like this, portraying like this childlike cheerleader character that's all spunky and jumping around. It's like, just act like a normal person.
Yeah, and honestly, that of what I've watched with them, if that was the only character that was kind of over the top or weird or whatever, because the Chase U stuff has always been kind of tongue-in-cheek, weird, wink wink, nudge nudge, and if that was all that was on the show, if that was, and the rest of the show was pretty normal people and normal things or whatever, I don't think it would be as bad. But I'm with you, it's just yet another like just weird character that doesn't actually exist in real life or whatever. But she does a good job with it. She's like, I'm with you that, because she's only, 19 at this point, 18, 19 I mean, there's a lot you could do with her, and I think she's got a ton of potential. But yeah, this is certainly not the way. To borrow from our boy Butch, this is not the way.
They still have Wendy Chu wearing pajamas and being sleepy.
And sipping her cup. Yeah, all right. Cool.
It's a dead-end gimmick. She's not going anywhere with that gimmick. You can't put that on the main roster. It's... The show is just, I don't even know the word for it. Corny, childlike, just sucks. The word for it is it fucking sucks. And I don't know how anybody watches that show on a week in, week out basis. Indy Hartwell's been in NXT for years and she's still fucking stinks.
Yeah, we gotta shit get off the pot with old Indy there.
Just cut her. Is Indy Hartwell ever going to be anything? I mean, she never gets any better. But she's like at least not a cartoon like the rest of the people on that show. Everyone else is portrayed as like a total cartoon. It's an unwatchable wrestling show. It's NXT since the change to 2.0, and now I guess whatever they are now, it's still basically the same thing without the rainbow colors. It's probably the worst Major League Pro Wrestling television show of all time at this point. I think we could safely say that. It's because it's never been good ever. Like not
there hasn't been, there hasn't been one episode that you sat down and were like, all right, slap your hands together. Like, wow, that's a hell of an episode of television. They're not doing that. They're actively trying not to do that. It seems like.
I can't imagine a functioning normal adult sitting down to enjoy that show. And what's ironic is it has the oldest.
All right. I think we are back. Hopefully that has solved all the issues for everybody. Joe, you were back. Hello. Hopefully we got it. There was an update to my streaming software today that I did, and I think it messed with some of the settings, but I think we're good. I think we're back. So the people in the Note Up chat room will let us know if we are not back or if we're not good or they can't hear us. But I think they're good. I think we're good, and hopefully the stream will be good to go the rest of the time. So it's just an image. I don't know. I mean, come on, YouTube. I'm sending an image to you. It should be fine, but yeah, I don't know. It's not my internet either. It's not Xfinity trying to fuck with me like they were a couple years ago. But yeah, I don't know what's going on, but we're back. Hello. Hi.
Is it going to affect the edited version of the show?
No, because we didn't leave YouTube. I stopped sending a signal to YouTube, but YouTube has continued our feed. So it might just be a little bit of blank space that I'll cut out in the edited version.
No, but I mean the first half hour of the show, will that be choppy for the listeners that listen?
That we will find out. Yes. I don't know.
Fantastic.
Hopefully not. Yeah, hopefully not. I do a backup recording, so hopefully that sounds good as well, but we'll see what ends up happening. So hopefully not, but we'll see.
So people can go back and listen, hopefully, to that.
I think so, yeah. And I don't think it was like cutting out a ton for it, but it was in and out. It was buffering a little bit for people. So hopefully it'll be okay. But yeah, if for whatever reason you're listening to the first half of the show and you're like, God damn it, what happened to these guys? That is why. But I do a backup recording, so hopefully either that or the video itself will be fine for anybody that goes back and listens. So sorry.
Listen, my words are gold. So if they need to go back and if they missed anything that I had to say, hopefully they can go back and re-listen to that entire. How long did we go?
Oh no, that will be. They might get some buffering, but they will be able to hear it, no doubt. It's on the video, it's locked in, it's all good to go. You don't understand.
Now what?
You don't understand. We're good. No, we're fine. We're fine.
No, but I'm saying, what I'm trying to say, Spider, is it going to be choppy when they go back and listen to it, like it was when they originally listened to it?
It might. Yes, hopefully not. Hopefully not, but it might.
Yeah. All right.
Ideally, no, but we'll see. Technology.
Well, now what? Do we read an ad or something? Like, what do we do?
Well, this is a terrible time to read an ad, so I don't know. No, let's not do that. Let's. Do you want to talk about NXT Deadline? NXT. We were discussing NXT, and I guess now's the the great time to talk about NXT DEADL1NE. You ready?
I'll give you a great example of why NXT fucking stinks.
Naming their show Deadline with a 1 instead of an I.
That's another example, but I'm going to give you a great example why it fucking stinks.
It was the Iron Survivor Challenge roundtable.
Well, we'll get to that fucking atrocity. First of all, after Halloween Havoc, I don't know how anyone could be looking forward to the show
for their next NXT PLE. Oh yeah,
I think Halloween Havoc is my worst show of the year. I think I'm going to pull the trigger on the Halloween Havoc, Rich, for worst show of the year. If you want to pitch me a worse one, go ahead. But I'm gonna. I really didn't want to watch wrestling ever again after that. So that might be the Halloween Havoc show. Really made me question whether I wanted to keep doing this, whether I wanted to keep watching wrestling, whether I wanted to really find a new hobby like collect stamps or something instead of doing
coin collecting. Look for some buffalo nickels out there in the wild. Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe get a pair of binoculars and start bird watching.
Oh, birding! Anything. Yeah, bird watching's great. I'll bird with you.
Fucking birding, fucking looking at fucking butterflies, whatever the fuck. Okay, because that was I think that's my worst show of the year, and I don't expect this one to be because NXT. So Thea Hale, back to the Thea Hale, Rich. She gets all excited because she has challenged Spooky Isla Dawn, and she's jumping up and down like.
Is it Isla or Isla? I've always called her Isla, but it's what?
You know, I think that I don't care.
I guess that's okay. All right.
So this Thea Hale is jumping up and down like a fifth grader because Dawn has accepted her match because no one could just act like a normal human being on this show. And Duke Hudson's like, no, that's a terrible idea. You know?
What's Duke's character? I'm trying to figure out what is he now? He's just like, because they've stripped all the other stuff. He's just like a guy now, right?
Duke.
Like, what would you describe his current character as? Because he's no longer the Poker. The Poker is now on Raw. They've upgraded Poker to Raw. That's now JBL's gimmick. On Raw is War. But yeah, what would you describe to somebody who is no longer watching NXT 2.5 or whatever the fuck this is? Like, what is Duke these days? He's just kind of a dude that's there, right?
Nah, he's in Chase University.
Yeah, but it's the weird, it's the does he really want to be there? Is he just playing the long game? I don't know. It's like that. That's
nah, they're not teasing anything. He's just he's in Chase University. I think he's just
no. I think they're kind of teasing like the full. He's not fully in, but maybe you're right.
Nah, he had a little minor disagreement with Andre Chase this week, which is what I'm getting.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, there's some tension there.
But I don't think they're teasing dissension. I think they just had a minor disagreement.
Okay. You think?
Okay, why are we going this deep?
Stop. Yeah, they haven't thought about this deep, and we should not think about it this deep. You're right. Go ahead.
So Hale's jumping around like a fifth grader because Dawn wants to wrestle her. And Duke is like, yeah, no, I don't think that's a good
that's
idea.
That's a good Duke Hudson.
Right? Yeah. And then Chase, who just lost the three-way to get into the fucking Iron Man gimmick deal, right?
Iron Survivor Challenge, yeah.
So he's rubbing his ribs because he's all bruised up. And Duke said, well, what do you think? Right? And Chase is like, whatever, take the match, whatever. And Duke said, I don't think that's a good idea. And all of a sudden, my Duke is starting to sound like Rocky. For some reason.
It's going a little more Philly all of a sudden.
So Andre Chase is like, no, I don't care. I've made my decision. He slams a locker, and he tells her to take the match. So she's all excited. She's like, she's going, yay, and she's clapping because she's childlike.
Right, she's a childlike cheerleader.
So she has the match later with Isla Dawn, and Rich, I shit you not, this is not even pro wrestling to me. This whole fucking company. I hate it. It sucks. So they're having this match. And Isla Dawn puts her in like a rear chin lock or something. The hold here isn't important. But she puts her in a hold. Fucking key lock, whatever the fuck. They shoot it from an angle, right? Where Dawn and the cheerleader are like, you can barely see them on the edge of the screen. And taking up the other portion of the screen is Duke Hudson leaning over the middle rope and Andre Chase leaning over the middle rope. And Duke is making these exaggerated, disappointed faces. Like, I knew this was going to go all wrong for Thea. And Andre Chase is making exaggerated, like, faces like he's trying to encourage her. Like, come on, I know you can do it. It's more important to them. And this was 80% of the match. Okay.
Right, the match is secondary to all this.
The match may as well not even be happening. It's just Isla Dawn holding this girl in a hold so that we can watch the exaggerated faces that Duke Hudson and Andre Chase are making. That's the only reason this match is even happening. It's a sidebar to Duke Hudson making exaggerated, disappointed faces. That's what this company is. It's not pro wrestling anymore, Rich. I mean, it's even worse on NXT. But this is essentially the Bloodline making goofy faces at each other. Right. That's what the Bloodline is. I can't take it.
I don't want to do the Bloodline show again, but somebody in our Discord, I believe it was Raymond Terry is his name, and he's a long time listener of the Flagship, coined, I think, the best thing I've ever heard about the Bloodline, and it then caused me to start looking up images and finding images of these comparables here. But he said that the Bloodline stuff is like Teen Nick or like All That or My Brother and Me. It's like Nickelodeon show shit, which then caused me to then go look at like 90s Nickelodeon shows and find scenes that look exactly like the Bloodline. Exactly. I found a My Brother and Me scene with Alfie and Goo that looks exactly like Goo playing the role of Paul Heyman. This means nothing to you. You were like 27 years old or whatever. You weren't that old. You were like 17 when My Brother and Me came out. So you did not watch My Brother and Me. I'm positive of it. But we're not that old. You may have. We're not that different apart. But Goo, it was like he was playing the role of Paul Heyman, the what the fuck? What's his dumb nickname that Paul calls him? The wise one, wise man, yeah. And so you got Goo with his eyes bugged out, holding onto Alfie's shoulder, and Alfie's like frowning like he's mad. And I'm like, that's it. That's the whole story right there. Like, it just looks exactly the same. And once he said that it's basically Teen Nick, All That, My Brother and Me, Keenan and Kel shit. Yeah, it's stuck with me now, and I'm like, oh no, it is. It's like it's. I don't know if it's ruined like Nick shows for me, or it's just made me laugh even more at the Bloodline stuff and realize, oh my god, that's what this is. It is so bad.
It's not even just the Bloodline; it's the whole company.
Right.
Like, the Bloodline is like the worst offender. Like it's that he's dead on. It's that teen Nick level acting, like Disney Channel shows.
Right. It's
like
all really bright. It's all really lit up. Yeah. Everyone's got to be making the most dramatic faces possible and they're doing it because they're shows for like 11 to 15-year-olds, which is fine. Right. But this show supposedly, I thought was supposed to be for older people.
And let's be honest, the WWE storylines are essentially written for 11 to 15-year-olds. So it's not that much but it's just all 50-year-olds watching for some reason and claiming that it's, great subtle stuff.
Right. And running websites and calling it great stuff. So,
it's incredibly subtle, Rich, when the camera during the match is pointed right at Duke Hudson so he can make his faces. That's subtle.
How would you possibly know? Yeah. What's the story? What's going on? Yeah.
That's the epitome of subtle storytelling right there. And that's exactly what the Bloodline is, with Jey Uso with the door cracked making a face.
Kevin Owens is staring at the open door, talking to
it's what you'd see. You're waiting for Amanda Bynes to walk in and tell a joke. Like, that's exactly, it's the best description of what that, or the chunky girl. Who was the chunky girl on
Lori Beth Denberger or whatever, I think was her name. Yeah, I forget what, I know who you're talking about, but Lori Beth something. Denberg, Lori Beth Denberg.
Or the other guy from Keenan and Kel.
Kel Mitchell. Oh, put some respect on Kel, please.
He made he's got a Christmas movie out.
Oh, I'm listening.
That he made with the girl from Precious. Like, they're the stars.
Okay.
The girl from, remember Precious?
I do. I'm listening. Keep going.
And they are starring, I don't think it's a Hallmark Christmas movie, but it's like for another network.
It's an off-brand Christmas movie. Yeah,
it's an off-brand Hallmark Christmas movie starring the girl from Precious and the guy from Keenan and Kel that's not the famous one. That's out there and it's real.
All I Didn't Want for Christmas is the name of this vehicle here. Yes. All I Didn't Want for Christmas. I don't know what it's on yet. I haven't figured that out. But
should we review this Christmas movie starring Precious and the other guy from Good Burger?
Put some respect on Kel Mitchell's name, sir.
I will not put any respect on Kel Mitchell's name. None whatsoever.
I would prefer not to watch this movie. Yeah, I don't.
Okay, then we won't do that.
I don't do many Christmas movies. So.
So the point here is that's exactly what WWE style storytelling is.
All I Didn't Want for Christmas?
Yeah.
Well, we don't know. We haven't watched it yet. But
last week I called it Looney Tunes, but I think the Teen Nick comparison is perfect.
Now, Looney Tunes is a little too over the top, a little too many. I mean, they did during COVID. They were kind of Vince McMahon's was closer to Looney Tunes.
Are you telling me that Money in the Bank in Titan Towers wasn't Looney Tunes?
Yes, because AJ Styles went, whoa, splatted or whatever. It was Ray, right? Well, Ray got an eye bugged out. That happened. Yeah, somebody splatted. I forget who splatted, but somebody splatted during Money in the Bank. So fell off the side of the building and died. So
It's produced the same way as the Nickelodeon and Disney Channel shows. It's lit the same way. The acting is just as bad. The stories are written in the same, way that are basically they're written for imbeciles. That's what it is. And NXT, believe it or not, is even lower on the food chain than Raw and Smack. It's even worse. I mean, it is substantially worse and cheesier and now they have Alba Fire, who just emerges from this terrible, cheap-looking puff of smoke on a weekly basis.
Yeah, the Brood, it is not. Gangrel, it is not.
Yeah, the show is utterly unwatchable. And Halloween Havoc was atrocious, and I'm sure this is going to be terrible. Let's go over this awful show I'm going to sit down and get it over with on Saturday. You are going to struggle with it because you're probably not going to be around.
I won't. I'll be able to watch most of Final Battle. We'll talk about that in a bit. I'll be able to watch most of Final Battle. Won't be able to do a show because I'll have to leave. But yeah, I'm not going to be able to watch. I might have to just stay up late Saturday night when I get home to watch this because You're right. I do this thing where I'm like, no, I'll watch it on Monday. And then Monday comes and I hit play and then it's like, dun, dun, dun. And then it's like Vic Joseph screaming at me. And I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do this. I have to do something else. So I might have to do it Saturday night just to get it over with. But yes, it is NXT Deadline. Gosh darn, Joe, wouldn't you know it? Same day as Final Battle. God, the chances of that. Unbelievable. All right. So we have we have a men's Iron Survivor Challenge, and then we have a women's Iron Survivor Challenge. So I'll do all the names of these two Iron Survival Challenges matches, and then we'll get to the rules of the Iron Survivor Challenge. So the men's match, and this is for a number one contendership for an NXT title as well. So number one contendership for the NXT title. It's Carmelo Hayes, JD McDonough, Grayson Waller, Joe Gacy, and Axiom are your men's Iron Survivor Challenge participants. Your women's Iron Survivor Challenge participants are Zoe Stark, Cora Jade, Roxanne Perez, Kiana James, and Indy Hartwell. So here are the rules.
Axiom and Indy Hartwell won the matches this week to
get a spot. Yes.
Claim the final spot.
Axiom is the former A-Kid for those of you who are not watching. I do not blame you. And JD McDonough is the former Jordan Devlin that they're hiding under the name JD McDonough.
The commercial bumpers were all little inset interviews with the 5 women. Well, 4 women, because Hartwell didn't get one because she wasn't in the match yet. And for the guys, what they did is they put them in an interview segment in the ring at the end of the show.
Oh my God. A bold. Wow. That's an
thinking outside the box.
Thinking really outside the box. We're going to have all the participants were they standing on big hunks of iron? Like, usually they do the ladder match thing and there's like 10 ladders in the ring and they have to sit on ladders just in case you weren't sure that they're having a ladder match this weekend. So were they just sitting on giant iron ore? Like, just a giant, like a Looney Tunes anvil, like a very like a stereotypical Looney Tunes anvil. That would be a great idea to sit on those. But were they just in the ring? They were just standing in the ring.
I hate it. I hate it so much.
It's so bad. All right, you want to hate something even more? Let's go over these fucking rules.
I feel like I respect you less if you enjoy this. I know that sounds really mean, but I mean, should we just stop talking about this company?
I'm getting kind of close to it. Yeah.
There's no entertainment value.
We might just. I'm of this mindset that we should check in for the Rumble, check in for Mania, talk big picture business stuff. But I don't want to watch these monthly shows. There's so many other things to watch.
There really isn't, because it's not like the rest of the world.
Yeah, the rest of the stuff sucks. We'll just watch wrestling from the 80s and talk about that. How about that? Just watch territory shit. That'd be better. Anyway, all right. Iron Survivor Challenge. You're going to hate this company even more when I explain these rules for you here. So, first off, if you did not see it, the way they decided who was going to be in the Iron Survivor Challenge, they had a roundtable of past WWE legends, including Shawn Michaels and X-Pac, and Alundra Blaze was there too. And yeah, it was a hoot, Joe. They're sitting there in the war room being like, I don't know. What do you think about JD McDonough? It's like, what are we doing? And nobody quite knew whether it was kayfabe or shoot or what it was. It was very, very bad. Anyway,
yeah, it was. Who
am I missing? Who did I miss? There was one person I missed that I didn't name. I said X-Pac, Medusa / Alundra Blaze, HBK, and then who was the?
I don't know.
Who cares? Who cares? All right,
let's get through this.
The rules for the Iron Survivor Challenge. Get a notebook out, Joe. You have a pen, right? I know we couldn't start the show because you needed a pen, but here you go. You ready to write this all down?
I have a pen, and I'm sticking it into my eyeballs. Yes.
Right, well, here you go. All right, 2 wrestlers start the match, and every 5 minutes, another wrestler enters until all 5 participants are present.
That sounds simple enough. What's so confusing about this match, Rich?
After the last wrestler enters, there is a predetermined time limit.
All right, so we get 5 guys at intervals, and then there's a time limit on the match. Okay. So I guess it can end in a draw, correct?
Sure. Each time, hold on a minute, maybe not. Each time a wrestler scores a pinfall submission or they're the victim of a disqualification, they gain a point.
All right.
So if somebody gets DQ'd for kicking too much ass, you, the person who got your ass kicked, gets a point.
Right.
Okay.
So it's like an Iron Man match.
Yes. Well, no, not really. A wrestler who is pinned, submitted, or disqualified goes into a penalty box for 90 seconds.
Oh, here we go.
A penalty box for 90 seconds. The winner of the match is the wrestler who scores the most points at the end of the time limit. Okay. Even if this was like gonna be okay, which it's not gonna be, it's gonna suck. Imagine how many bells and whistles and alarms and sirens and what the penalty box is going to look like. And when the penalty box opens, the lights are going to go off. The smoke's going to go on. Vic Joseph's going to say, he's out of the penalty box. Carmelo Hayes, it's free. You know what I mean? It's going to be so bad. And then they're going to count down. And then a growling woman's going to tell you, now entering the ring, Grayson Waller. And then Grayson Waller is going to come down. And then they're going to... And then the penalty box, and it's going to be so bad. And then there's 2 of them. And you also have to figure out that the screen's going to be filled with like names and numbers as you're trying to figure out, Zoe Stark has 3 and Cora Jade has 1 and Roxanne Perez got beaten up with a chair, so she's got 1 too. It's like, oh my God.
Well, I mean, Rich, if you don't do 2 of them, it means you hate women, Rich. So you have to do the 2 of them. That you have to do. You're right. There's going to be a lot of annoying elements to this. It's basically a 5-man Iron Man match with a penalty box.
Right. It's King of the Mountain and Iron Man match and multi-man matches all smashed together into one horrific thing that's the Iron Survivor Challenge. Well, hey, maybe it's great and we will be eating crow, as the people say, next week. I am not anticipating that, but it is certainly possible, I guess. It's not going to be great. It's going to suck.
All I know is the fact that there's DQs pleases me quite well, because that means we're not going to get the fake WWE black chairs, the kendo sticks, the ladders, the tables, which I have fucking had enough of. And I thought this thing.
I think you're wrong, sir. I think they are going to do it, and they're going to say, "Oh, JD McDonough really, he's playing the long game here. He's got, it's Wade Barrett screaming, or he's not doing it anymore. Who the hell's doing whoever? Like they're going to be saying Booker T. That's right. Yeah, Booker T's like, I think JD made a good call there, because JD's going to go in there and hit everybody with a chair and get disqualified, but then they're going to be hit with chairs, and it's like, oh, he's playing the long game. Like, sure, he's going to go down a couple points now, but those other guys have been hurt. If you don't think you're getting a WWE branded chair in this match, you're an idiot, Joe. You know better. First of all,
you
don't think you're getting a WWE branded chair here, sir?
First of all, Booker T doesn't even know who JD McDonough is. That's number one.
That guy right there. That's a bold strategy. That guy right there.
Right.
He's got a lot of potential. I love him. He's got a lot of potential.
Yeah.
He just says that about everybody, which, is not, I mean, to his credit, not a bad idea if you're doing NXT. Like, the idea of it is a developmental show, so just keep saying, this person's got a lot of potential. This person's got a lot of potential. I see a lot of good things in this guy's history. I see a lot of good things. This guy could be great. Like, they may as well just get a string doll and just pull it every so often, because that's all he says, which is fine. But it's so bad. All right. NXT Championship, the big belt on the line here. Braun Breaker, fresh off his fishing trip, versus Apollo Crews. You think this is it for Braun? Is Apollo winning the big one here?
It has a chance to be a good match.
Sure.
If they just go out there and wrestle.
Yeah.
I am Don Fuji. Goodbye. What do you want me to say?
We'll move on to the I didn't even know this match was happening. I forgot this was even happening until I did my notes here. NXT tag team titles, Pretty Deadly putting the belts on the line against The New Day.
You know why? Because
Kofi Kingston.
Because you don't watch NXT. That's how you don't, they did a big angle this week to set it up. So
I come and go. I come and go on NXT. I apologize, but yeah.
Pretty Deadly have go away heat with me. I can't stand them. And not in a, you're supposed to not like them way. I fucking cannot stand Pretty Deadly. They irritate me. Total go away heat. Do nothing for me, bell to bell. I can't stand them. And I've been over New Day for like 7 years. So, I don't know. New Day.
Is it possible they do what? I guess you have no plans whatsoever for New Day. It doesn't hurt to give them a run with the titles or whatever, but I don't know.
Who cares?
Do they want to do that? Who cares? Move on. And then the final match here, Alba Fire coming off of her smoke, and Isla or whatever the hell, Dawn. So there you go.
Yeah, Isla Dawn, she beat the fucking cheerleader girl. Once Duke Hudson was done making his faces, right? Then they finished off the pesky match that got in the way of Duke Hudson and Andre Chase making faces at each other. And then the bad looking puff of smoke happened, and Alba Fire emerged, and she beat up Isla Dawn, and then Isla Dawn walked backwards down the entrance ramp, making spooky faces, and she makes spooky faces, and then she smiles after she makes the spooky faces. Rich, do you know why she does that?
I'm playing 4D chess or something. Who knows, man? I don't know.
No, I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
Because she is a woman who sees the beauty in disaster and chaos, according to Vic Joseph.
Okay,
that's why. So that's why she makes those faces, and then acts like she's.
That's a very Beth Phoenix line. I forgot what was the. I gotta look it up. There was the greatest Beth Phoenix line about Io Shirai. I'm gonna find it. Give me a minute or two. I could find it. But Beth Phoenix talking about Io Shirai. It was like, I'll find it. Give me a minute. It's so good. Yeah. So what is it? Alba Fire is what is she? She finds the beauty in destruction.
She has like a little cutesy nickname too, but I don't remember it.
All right, I found the best thing. If you're ready to be done,
go ahead.
Io Shirai is the modern mercenary, and she's hell bent on achieving her egocentric destiny. I was dying when all the guys had to lay out for her to go, guys, Io Shirai is the modern mercenary, and she's hell bent on achieving her egocentric destiny. It's like,
just listen.
What?
Who hasn't said that at the office?
Of course, yeah. You know what, Tom? I like Tom, but he's a modern mercenary, and he's just hell bent on achieving his egocentric destiny. And I just, he's tough to work with.
Yeah, I can't stand people who are hell bent on their egocentric destinies. It just
sucks.
It bothers me, Just like my cousin, my cousin Lisa. She's a woman who sees beauty in disaster and chaos.
Is that true?
People say things like that all the time, Rich. Yeah. Describe people. Those are normal ways to describe normal people.
Yeah.
That's how you describe professional prize fighters trying to win money in championships, right? Those are things that you would normally say about that. So, I don't know. You got the porn girl in the Iron Woman match, right? That Kiara James is in there.
Yes.
She's even got a porn name.
I love the gimmick. Love the gimmick, gotta say. I'm a big fan of.
Yeah, because that's your kind of porn too. It looks like the property porn.
Yeah,
property sex.
Property sex.
Yeah.
Put some respect on it. There you go.
Yeah, you look like Charles Dara is going to enter the scene at any minute and just dick her down. That's what she looks like every time.
She's got her business her business clothes, her glasses because she's smart. Yeah, you know.
You're waiting for El Nino Polo, whatever his name is, to come in and as like her step nephew and fucking give her the business. Like every single scene she's in, that's what you're waiting for. With Kiara James and her assistant,
Kiana,
right?
Kiana, sir.
Kiana James. Does the assistant have a porn name too? What's her name?
Oh man, I forget what Kiana James's assistant. Forget her name.
Let's see if we could find that. I want to see if she too. Well, it's a wrestling name, so it's definitely a porn name.
Yeah. Who's Kiana James's partner? Yeah, I forget her name.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I don't know.
Ariana Grace, is that who you're thinking of?
Sure.
Yeah, go with that. There's somebody else too, I think. So.
Sure. Ariana Grace it is.
Sure. Let's go with it. Yeah. So that is NXT Deadline. That's Saturday night, so you can watch Final Battle and then watch NXT Deadline after that. And
can't you see Ariana Grace, like, you know, you see Kiara James walking in on her with like banging her boyfriend James Dean, and she's like
James Dean.
That's not how you suck a dick. And she's like, get out of the way. And like she shows her.
That's how you're pleasing my man? Like that's not how it's done. Right?
Yeah. That's every scene with those two. That's what you're how you're waiting for it to end. You know, you're waiting for TT Boy to enter the scene.
I am not waiting for TT Boy. I'm just saying, the Kiana James, I don't know, like the gimmick. Some reason I just think it's a solid gimmick. She's a great wrestler, so good for her.
Do you like how I updated my porn references until I got to TT
and then
Boy?
You went right to with your wheelhouse, right to what you know.
Right. So I had some contemporary ones there, though. So
and then you slowly lost it, and then you were just right back into your period.
And that Charles Dara, I've seen his dick more than my own. Like, can we put someone else in these scenes for God's sake? That guy gets a ton of work. That Dara, he's everywhere. I tell you what he does though. He mixes it up. Sometimes he has the Tom Selleck mustache. Sometimes he doesn't have it.
Yeah, right? Sometimes he looks like Bobby Roode. You have to do a double take for a minute. Yeah, that I do not like. I do not like that at all. Where I'm like, am I watching Bobby? Okay, no, I'm not.
Sometimes it fools me because I'm like, wait a minute, that's Charles Dara again.
I know that. I know that dick anywhere.
I know that stroke game. I promised myself no more Charles Dara, and then I got to X out and find another video.
Yeah.
You know, so that guy. That happens like every 5 years. There'll be a male guy who he's in every fucking scene, and he's just the guy right now. You can't avoid him. You know, even you knew who I was talking about. You know?
Right? I don't know the names. You know, I got no time for that. But
no, you Googled it though, and you're like, oh, that guy.
I know because he's the Bobby Roode guy. Where I'm like, oh God.
I said Charles Dara, and you typed away, and you went, oh yeah, I know who that is. Yeah, because he's in every fucking porn. Can't avoid that dude.
Good work if you can get it. Good work if you can get it.
Remember the MILF Hunter? That guy was in, fucking every porn, the MILF Hunter. He had the little eagle tattoo on his bicep, and his name was the MILF Hunter. What a great porn name.
Right down to it tells you what it is, No?
Yeah. Now he can just walk into any fucking office and get a job because no one is none the wiser. You know what I mean? It's he doesn't have to be like Don Cheadle in what was the movie with Mark Wahlberg where he's the porn star? What's the fucking name of that movie?
Oh, I don't remember the movie. I know what you're talking about, but
yeah, with Burt Reynolds and
by the way, welcome to all of our new listeners that are jumping off of Dynamite and coming to a perfect flagship here. They're like, all right, I'm sure they're deep in wrestling talk. Nope.
Yeah. Dirk Diggler. What was the name of that fucking movie? It's where Dolph Ziggler got his name. Dirk Diggler.
Boogie Nights.
Boogie Nights. So it's like that scene in Boogie Nights where Don Cheadle, he wants to get the loan to open up the fucking stereo store. And they're like, sir, we don't do business with pornographers, right? It like ruined his life doing the porn, right? Like if you're the MILF hunter, you don't have to worry.
No, yeah, when you apply and you're, Tony Jones, like nobody gives a shit, when you put your name on application, they don't know that you're the MILF hunter. And I mean, unless but then, even if the guy knows you are, like, think about this. If the guy knows you are, he can't say it. Like, there's a guy in the interview. He can't be like, hey, that's the MILF hunter right there, guys. Like, we can't hire that guy. That's the MILF hunter. Because then everyone's like, well, how do you know? And he's like, well,
Yeah. He can't go, now, wait a minute, sir. I know you. I would know Captain Stabbin's face anywhere, right? We can't bring you into it.
Right.
You can't
so that guy can't know. And then he's got to hire him just to make up for the awkwardness of him knowing who he is. Because they're going to be like, he's a great candidate. And this one guy's going to be like, I don't know. I don't really love him. And it's like, well, why? And so at that point, you have to just be like, yeah, he's great. Yeah, it'd be perfect for the company. Can't wait.
So you look at a guy like the MILF hunter, and he spent a good 10, 15 years banging all the MILFs and every other assorted porn star. And now he's probably in his late 40s, early 50s, right? That's about where I'd peg him, right? And now he can just go live a normal life too after having that incredible, wild existence. He's got the best of both worlds, So you want to try to have a gimmick name. I guess they're all gimmick names when you really think about it, right? I mean,
yeah, it's all pretty bad. Yeah,
I don't think Lil D is the guy's actual name.
Probably not. I'd imagine they're smart enough to not. I wonder what the MILF hunter's up to these days. So, not really. I actually don't really care what he's doing, but good for him.
The MILF hunter, I'd like to know what he's up to. I honest to God, would love to.
You would love to know what the MILF. He's probably still. Well, I don't know. Probably can't keep that job going for a while. You can't keep it going that long. Eventually, you're going to have to expire. You know what I mean? Like, you no longer are you going to be worth. Because you got what's his face? You got the Bobby Roode guy who can fill in your role right now too, and he's got
and there's and someone's going to replace Charles Dara at some point as the guy that's in every single porn. It's just that's the cycle of life in the porn biz. You know what I mean? But it used to be the TT boy Peter North era, and the time marches on, and you just. It's you can't stay on top forever. It's even a shorter shelf life for the ladies. Although, the MILF porn really is.
I was going to say they have a whole second generation now that they can do. So good for them.
The problem though is they put you into MILF porn as soon as you turn like 28. Like it's ridiculous. And it's like, what tickles my fancy tonight? I want some older ladies. Let me type in MILF, and then they're like 30, and you're like, that's not an older like this woman. So does it really extend their careers? I'm not sure about that. You got 25-year-olds portraying teens, and you've got 30-year-olds that are MILFs. What are we doing? Do we have an ad to read or something? Do we want to?
We do, but I'm not going to do it now.
You could stick HelloFresh right here.
I don't want to. I don't want to do that to our lovely partners at HelloFresh. I will. I'll say what else is on the show this tonight. We've previewed NXT Deadline, so that's not coming up anymore. But we are going to talk about ROH Final Battle. We're going to talk about the news and notes from Tony Khan's ROH Final Battle media call, including the latest on William Regal, who appeared on Dynamite this week. And I know you don't like to get Dynamite spoilers, but I think at least it's relevant for this case. I had it on the background. I was able to see what was going on there. But he did appear on Dynamite this week, so we'll touch on that in a bit. Then we'll check in, maybe even bounce around Japan. We'll see. NXT Super Juniors World Tag League. Got the Junior Battle of Glory Real World Tag League in All Japan. We got Dragongate. Had a free show. Yes, a free show that you can watch completely free right now in English or Japanese commentary. And then we'll kind of check in on what's going on during the Christmas and New Year's season in Japan, because there's a lot of really, really fun shows and big-time matchups. It's one of the biggest times of the year for Japanese wrestling. So we'll kind of check in and see what is going on there. But, Joe, before we do that, let us talk about our friends at HelloFresh. And HelloFresh, you get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. You can skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and best of all, affordable. And that is why it is America's #1 meal kit. And Joe, I know you know all about this. It is the most festive time of the year, and HelloFresh is here to make help you make the most of every single moment during that time of the year. From holiday hosting to dinners during busy weeknights, you can count on HelloFresh to deliver fresh ingredients and seasonal recipes. 'Tis the season for saving money whenever we can, and HelloFresh is cheaper than grocery shopping and 25% less expensive then takeout, so you can use those savings for holiday gifts or hell, just to treat yourself. And HelloFresh can also help you eat better, which is something very important to me around the holidays, because there are too many temptations around the holiday season: cookies and candy and sodas and beers and all that sort of stuff. But their meals have 20% fewer calories than takeout, so you can still have full flavor just without the guilt. And if you're short on time, HelloFresh's quick and easy options like the 20-minute meals and easy cleanup dishes are big on flavor and easy on effort. They are time-saving solutions that mean more time with your friends and family around the holidays. So now the best part here: go to HelloFresh.com/VOW18. That's HelloFresh.com/VOW18 and use our exclusive promo code VOW18. That's VOW18. And you're going to get 18 free meals plus free shipping by signing up. Again, HelloFresh.com/VOW18. Use that promo code VOW18 and get 18 free meals plus free shipping. And one of the things that I love most about HelloFresh is that it works with your schedule. So especially during the holiday season, hey, you're looking like, I don't need anything on the week of Christmas, I'm traveling here the week after, yada, yada, all that sort of stuff. That's fine. It will work with your schedule. You can change your preferences, delivery day, and your address in just a few clicks. So hell, if you're traveling, you can send it there if you want. If you just need to take 2 weeks off or 3 weeks off or a month off or whatever, you can do that too and jump back on whenever you're ready. So again, HelloFresh.com/VOW18. Use the promo code VOW18 and get 18 free meals plus free shipping. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. There we go. All right. Give a little bit of space there. All right, you want to talk about Final Battle?
Of course.
Let's do it. So let's maybe talk about the media call first. That'll kind of set the stage for what we had at Final Battle. So we have full written analysis and an audio replay of that media call available right now at flagshippatreon.com, patreon.com/voices of wrestling, voicesofwrestling.com/Patreon, no matter which way you want to get there. That is your analysis of the media call. You and I both listened in. We also have a replay as well for those that want to hear the call itself. So now there was some other news and notes that I think quickly I'll go over those, and then we'll get into the Regal stuff because I think that's pretty important to touch on. So Tony did say the future of Ring of Honor would be discussed/addressed on Saturday. This kind of has a lot of people thinking a potential TV deal might be looming, as he did follow that up not that long after by saying we'll see a lot less ROH on AEW television moving forward. So that seems to me that something is happening TV-wise, but I guess we'll find out on Saturday what's going on there. But my interpretation is he's doing something about it, knowing that, hey, look, even if we don't have a TV deal, we got to figure out something here. But seemed like we're moving in the direction of a TV deal.
It feels like it may not be necessarily a television deal, because he did say whichever platform it is, he did say that. So I don't know if that was him sort of preparing people for the fact that it may not necessarily be TV and it might be a streaming deal or something like that. He was asked specifically about a television deal, and he said he's excited to announce something Saturday on whichever platform that is what he said. And then he said he's going to punt the question to Saturday. And then, yeah, like you said, the biggest clue was how he said on the call that he wants there to be less of an ROH presence on AEW TV, which obviously is the indicator that ROH is going to have their own outlets of some kind, which will he's probably saving that announcement probably for the pay-per-view. They'll probably have Rick Bone announcing on the pay-per-view, right? Because
get a big pop, get people excited. It's smart. It's smart not to do it on the media call. I do.
You don't want to do it at you don't want to do it at the press conference, because there's far less people that'll see that. So that's probably why he didn't say anything today, because I'm guessing on the broadcast that they have something to announce in terms of ROH. The other big clue too was earlier this week. I don't know if you saw this. He had noted that there's far more ROH talent under contract than people are aware of.
Right. He did say that. Yeah.
You wouldn't sign all these people if you didn't have something coming down the pike.
Right. You would if you were like a bad, but I don't think he's a stupid or dumb businessman. So yeah, I tend to think that there's a lot of smoke. There's got to be some fire here, whether it's I'm running this on YouTube or it's on Max or it's on this or whatever it's going to be. It does feel like we're going in the direction of ROH is going to be somewhere, but it's going to be less on AEW TV moving forward.
Yeah, and now we'll finally get people to stop complaining.
Good news for the corn cobs, yeah.
Yeah, ROH stuff on AEW shows.
Right.
And all the people who, said that there was too much ROH on the AEW shows and there shouldn't have been any, and and all this and that. I mean, they were objectively wrong. That's not my opinion. You were wrong because, as Khan noted later on the call, the first 2 pay-per-views he produced, and I don't think he's counting the Supercard of Honor. I think he's talking about, because what has there been? Supercard of Honor, or is he counting that? How many have they had? No, they've had 2. They've had, no, just 2. Supercard of Honor and, let me look this up now so I'll get this right.
Yeah, let's make sure we get the exact one. So there was Supercard of Honor, which again was like he kind of said, I didn't really, they kind of just did everything there. Death Before Dishonor they had in July, and then now Final Battle. So yeah.
Right. So the first 2, Supercard of Honor, Death Before Dishonor, he said doubled their internal projections in terms of pay-per-view buys. And, you know, and the fact is, you can't sell pay-per-views without being on television. And ROH didn't have any television. But what Tony Khan did have was AEW television. So by doing his ROH storylines on AEW television, he was selling these pay-per-views. Okay? You can't just sell pay-per-views cold and throw a card up on the screen and say, this weekend we're having this ROH show with a bunch of wrestlers, titles, and storylines that you know, just that you're not privy to, because no, you had to have this stuff on TV. And the other aspect of this is, okay, now ROH is going to have its own thing, we're presuming. You couldn't, it's better to have had ROH have a television presence all of this time,
right? Establish it to people that had no idea what it is, and then say, hey, if you want to see more of Claudio, or you want to see more of Shane Taylor, you want to see more of this, whoever, like, we're now on X on this day, on that time, or whatever. So, you know, yeah, and it makes more sense now in the future if you're going to have a relationship and guys are going to bounce back and forth and jump out of Ring of Honor for a couple months or whatever. Yeah, it's good to let people know what the fuck Ring of Honor is. So
rather than just having it on ice this whole time. If you would have had it iced this whole time, you wouldn't have sold any pay-per-views. You wouldn't have sold any tickets to the
it'd be deader than dead at this point. I mean, guys, think about where it is now versus where it was a year ago, or where it was in March of last year. I mean, come on.
And then you'd be trying to start up this whole other endeavor cold. It doesn't make any sense. He absolutely was correct in using AEW television to promote Ring of Honor. There is no suitable counter argument. If you have a counter argument, you're wrong. Okay, you're not. It's like he said on the last media call. If you don't like the ROH presence on TV, you can have that opinion. You have to counter that and tell me how I'm supposed to do business otherwise. That's all. That's what it comes down to. So now we don't have to worry about that anymore, presuming that's the announcement that's coming Saturday. And the way that he framed it and all of the clues, obviously they're going to have some sort of media rights deal.
Something. Yeah, something's coming.
Of some type. I don't know if it's necessarily going to be TV, because he keeps qualifying it with, you know, whatever platform we're on is what he keeps saying. A giant wet fart would be if it's just a weekly show on their revamped ROH. What's the name of that site?
The Honor Club or whatever. The Honor.
Yeah, like if it's some Honor Club upload once a week. I mean, that's they're not making any money off of that other than from Honor Club subs. And that would be, okay, we couldn't get anything else, right? That's what that'll tell us, if that's what it is. I would prefer, obviously TV is the best option. You get a television deal, you get someone to pay you money, and you get the most eyeballs that way. I would prefer that to a streaming deal. I guess it would depend what the TV deal is versus what the streaming deal is. But I'd rather have my product on TV if I'm trying to sell tickets and pay-per-views. But we'll see. We'll see what it is. And I guess we'll find out on Saturday.
Other notes here. He did tell people to keep an eye on FTR tonight in reference to a question of, why they are not on the ROH show. We will get to that in a little bit, because again, a little bit of a Dynamite spoiler for some people, but we will touch on they are going to do something on the ROH show, so we'll talk about that when we preview.
Who, FTR?
FTR, yes.
I mean, he basically said that on the call.
He said, just wait, you fucking idiots. They're going to be on the show. Like, just chill. So,
like, watch Dynamite tonight, and that'll all become more clear.
Yeah, he tried to make it obvious. Hey, I have 2 television shows left to go to build this show, so just give me a minute. All right, I'm working on it.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what that match is in a minute. And then no details on a Shane Taylor contract, but did say that Keith Lee was the one who brought Taylor up to Khan and is kind of spearheading the angle and coming up with some of the concepts.
He pitched the storyline. Yeah, he pitched. He said,
which is a good one. It's a good one, despite Corn Cobs again not understanding it. Because
it's an excellent storyline. Right. Yeah, it's really good.
If you're aware of these guys' backgrounds and pasts or whatever, it's good. So,
and even if you're not, Shane Taylor explained
it in 40 seconds, so you should probably know.
Right.
But also, who cares? Because these people just... Okay, anyway, we'll go to the Tony Khan. The big part of the Tony Khan media call was about William Regal. So, Tony Khan, if you did not listen to the call, again, full analysis and a replay is up at flagshippatreon.com, patreon.com/voices of wrestling. But the beginning of it, for about 10 minutes or so, Tony revealed a lot of personal stuff that he's been going through as of late, including his mother suffering 2 strokes and having heart surgery in October. So she and the whole family's had a very rough go the last couple of months. And he just kind of alluded to the fact that to kind of set up to the story of, hey, this is what's been going on. This is where I've been. And this is, where my head's been and all that sort of stuff. But then also said that during this time is when he got a call from William Regal. Got a call from Mega, right? The AEW chief legal officer first. And then a call from William Regal. Basically, William Regal wanted Tony Khan to not pick up his option for the next year. Now, we talked about this last year. We've been previewing this or whatever, but said, hey, please don't pick up my option for 2023. I want to return to WWE. I want to work with my son. And said that Regal kind of used... And some people are taking this more negatively, I guess, if you hear the call. And I guess I'm curious on your thoughts on this, too. Yeah. If you hear the call, Tony says, I was in the hospital with my mother when Regal called me and we were talking and we had a good conversation. And he just said, hey, look, think about the situation you're in. Doesn't that make it obvious why I'd want to go and spend time with my son? And Khan said, yeah, I get that. Some people are taking that a little more negative, that he's using hey, your mother's in the hospital, so let me I didn't see it that way.
Working Khan's emotions against him.
Yeah, I didn't, and Tony didn't, I don't think, present it that way. But what do you think about that?
Khan definitely didn't frame it or hint towards it being in that direction.
People that have just read the interview, I think it's like, hey, give me the release, man. You don't want me to end up like your mother. That wasn't at all what I was thinking the story was or what the presentation was. Just mostly hey, look, you're in a very emotional moment right now with your family. Understand why I would want to spend as much time with my family as I possibly can, type of thing.
Yeah, and the bottom line is, even if Regal is kind of working him from that standpoint, or I don't want to use the word manipulate, but people I think know what we mean here. Even if that is the case, from the Tony Khan standpoint, at the end of the day, you know what? He feels like he did the right thing for the guy. So if he did work him a little, if there was a little bit of old Carney, action going on, I would look at it from the standpoint of, so what? If I'm going to got, okay, I'm going to do so while also feeling like I did the right thing. And if he did manipulate me and use my emotions at that time to get what he wanted, you know what? He's the one that's got to live with that. I feel like I did the right thing.
Right. He's the one that's ultimately going to, I will, it's no skin off my back once I'm done with you. And yeah, you'll have to live with the idea that,
So,
I'm with you.
So he basically said that, at that point he agreed and that he wouldn't pick up the option, but they wanted to figure out the best course of action, because now you have to change all your storylines. He didn't say this directly, but he said everything had to change. So that means the way things played out with Regal and MJF was not the original plan. Okay. So they came up with the new plan and came up with a revised exit strategy to kind of make everybody happy. And, Regal, he kept stressing too that he decided to let Regal out, but Regal is still with us and he's still here. And like you said, he was on Dynamite this week.
Yes, but I don't know how much more he's going to be on. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, well, obviously we know he's on his way out, but he did say many times he's still with us. He's still with us. He kept stressing that. So, the contract isn't up yet. So this isn't a situation where Khan let Regal out of his contract early. It's a situation where he simply agreed not to renew the option for 2023. And later in the call, we found out that a condition of that was Regal cannot appear on screen for WWE next year. he cannot appear on screen until 2024, which is exactly what I said I would have done last week. Last week when we talked about this, I kind of nailed all of this. And I didn't know anything. I didn't talk to anyone. I didn't know anything. This was very tight-lipped. No one really knew anything except Meltzer, and Meltzer was told off the record. That's why Meltzer kept saying, I know stuff off the record, but I can't talk about it. He obviously knew all this stuff about Ann Khan being sick with the strokes.
Right, and that makes sense why people are like, why doesn't Dave just say what if he knows? And it's like, well, I don't want to be the one to tell you that this guy's mother has been in the hospital and dealing, like, he should be the guy to tell you this. So again, some apologies probably need to be.
A lot of people looking bad.
Yeah, fucking chill out, people. God.
So, it's no one knew anything, but my suspicion was Regal wanted to go work. Now that Triple H is back, Regal saw an opportunity to go back and work with his son, maybe get off the road. He's a tired old man with his own health problems. Maybe he doesn't want to be on the road every week. That's another factor here.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, he, and again, we're doing this thing where we're like, the backstage, and the Young Bucks, and Tony Khan doesn't know how to lead. Like, at the end of the day, if Triple H wasn't back in power, the guy that always gave William Regal the power, and the guy that he worked with for years and years and years, if Triple H wasn't back in power, he's not going back to WWE. Let's be honest. Like, let's call it spade a spade. All this
head canon people are creating.
Well, they do it with every person. Like, at the end of the day, the biggest factor in all of these people. Oh, I wonder if Malachi Black is just not happy with his push, or no, again. Maybe he's not happy with his push. No wrestler is happy with their push. Every wrestler thinks they should be main eventing and winning every match and winning the title and being the biggest star in the entire show. Every single wrestler. At the end of the day, the reason people want to go back is because Triple H. None of this would be happening if Vince McMahon was still in power. Let's call a spade and call it what it is. And there could be other issues that make you then realize, hey, you know what? Maybe I am willing to go back. Maybe there are things that are kind of bugging you or whatever. But like I said, they're wrestlers. They're bugged about everything. At the end of the day, the biggest factor, the number one reason that always gets lost in all this discussion of, William Regal tried to teach somebody something, and then Matt Jackson told him to go fuck himself, whatever the hell these headcanon or whatever the hell we're doing this time again, or, Aleister Black or Malachi Black's just not happy with his push. I mean, look at the main events that he's been in. At the end of the day, they want to go back because they have relationships that are in that company, and the person that's in charge of the company is somebody that's respected them and pushed them in the past, and they want to go back. Like, If you don't lead off a story talking about why somebody wants to go back to WWE with Triple H is now in power, then you're just doing a disservice to yourself. That is the number one factor for why these people want to go back.
I mean, I guess. For most of them, yeah. And this situation, the guy wants to go back and work with his son and maybe get off the road, and his option was coming up. And he wanted to see if he could talk the guy into not renewing his option. This isn't even a situation where he was asking for an early release. The contract was coming due.
Right. He had an option.
And Khan had to decide, well, do I want this guy showing up on NXT TV in a week? So, what I suggested last week was if he wants to go work with his son and go work with Triple H, I'd let him go.
Scout and shit. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd let him go, but I would put a condition in there that he cannot appear on screen, and that's exactly how Khan played it. So, do I think like a billionaire? Maybe. I don't know. That's for you to decide. But the point here is, okay, I nailed it. I nailed exactly how all this played out. But yeah, he's not going to be able to appear on screen until 2024, which is, I think, a fair concession for Regal to make. And Khan noted that Regal was at the exact verbiage.
You're not just some reckless rookie, YOLOing your portfolio, ready to risk it all on some shiny new coin. You're on Robinhood now. Trading ETFs, tracking the S&P, working that DCA. You're breaking free from bots, bankers, and all that bull. You're doing it all, and on your terms. Because no one runs your money like you. Stocks and ETFs offered by Robinhood Financial LLC. Member SIPC. Crypto offered by Robinhood Crypto LLC. All investing involves risk.
Was very cool with that particular concession in order to get Khan to agree to not renew the option.
Right. So, of a guy who's involved in major storylines and the major storyline of his entire company. Yeah, it's a good that's a good concession to make. So again, to the thing of like, he manipulated Tony into the at the end of the day, even if he did manipulate him, I think Tony got a fair return on that. Of all right, yeah, you can go, but I better not. You can't appear on as a GM on NXT next week. Like that's just not happening. And that's fine.
I will tear up all of my plans and accommodate you. And because I'm going to put family first in this situation and do right by you, but you can't be on TV for another year. For when maybe you could, and maybe that would have been the case anyway. If he would have renewed the option, maybe he would have been there for another year. And then at that point, he'd be free and clear to go and then appear on TV. So Khan doesn't get the PR disaster of the guy just popping up on WWE TV next week. And Regal's obviously going to agree to that because he gets what he wants. He gets to go back to the other company, which is where he wants to be. So, you also kind
of call a guy's bluff with that too. You know what I mean? Where you say, "Oh, it's about your son." It's okay. Well, then just don't appear on TV for a year. And if he scoffs at that and goes, "Oh, no," then you're like, "Oh, well, hold on a minute." So it's not only about your son and working with him and working with young wrestling minds. Okay, all right, and Tony did kind of get his antennas up a little bit when he said that. He was taken aback, surprised, a little. I forget the exact words he used when Triple H shared that supercut of Regal saying War Games on Twitter before he had officially agreed to let Regal be done, or until Regal was officially done with AEW. He thought that was a little, because he's like, hey, I did right by this guy, and now you're just kind of throwing it in my face here a little bit.
You could tell that annoyed him.
He wasn't quite slamming the door, and I'm fucking sick of it, or whatever. Yeah. But he's fucking sick of it. I'm sure. You
could tell that annoyed him. He said he was very surprised that Triple H sent out that tweet. And he was annoyed by that. But that's it's incredible with this company how many of their long-term plans end up getting torn up and redone for various reasons, whether it's injuries, guys getting in fights and getting suspended, or situations like this. It really is incredible how many of their long-term stories have just been completely derailed. You could probably think of 6 or 7 of them off the top of your head, whether it's CM Punk and MJF, whether it's however this Regal thing with MJF was meant to play out, whether it's Christian getting injured and derailing the whole, Jungle Boy storyline.
Kenny Omega being out for a year.
Kenny Omega out a year. The Young Bucks getting suspended right when they won the trios titles. The one that Khan noted today on the call, which was CM Punk, when he got hurt the first time and broke his foot, ended up derailing months and months worth of plans for FTR, which was a new bit of information that we didn't know before. So right there, 6 or 7 examples that we can come up with without even thinking very hard of major long-term storylines that, got completely derailed by injury, suspension, freak of nature, crazy occurrences. And that's got to be maddening when you're a booker who thinks long-term and plots out these long-term storylines, and so many of them go up in smoke.
Right. It's been one of my biggest criticisms this year of the booking of AEW is that a lot of it does not feel like it's been planned. Like, because when they first started, it felt like a lot of it, especially 2020, like that entire year felt like they sat down and after that meeting where he took the Bucks and Omega, all right, no, I'm running the show here, guys. I'm running the things. It felt like from that point forward, the rest of the year, even with COVID, that like they had a clear idea of what they were doing the rest of that year, and every story. And that was why I really liked that year for AEW, because I think everything just felt like they sat down and had a 6 to 8 month plan of this is what we're going to do. And it does feel like, 2021, I think there's a lot of that in that year as well. Like really, really, really good planned stuff. 2022, it felt like they've been not planning things in advance, but I could get the frustration of having a plan and ripping it up, and 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 then just saying, fuck it, who cares? All right, let's just do a month in advance. Let's just build to this pay-per-view cycle. Let's just build to this. And I think that hopefully we can get back to what I think was AEW's strong point in 2020 and 2021, which was long-term storytelling and whatnot. But I get how, when all of your, most of your top guys either get hurt or suspended or whatever, it becomes very, very difficult to sit down and have a 6-month plan when you know that you're probably gonna have to tear that up within a couple months.
Yeah, whatever he had planned for Adam Cole went right out the window with the concussion. He had an entire pay-per-view, Forbidden Door, which, one day the story is going to be told on that. But I don't think there's one match that happened on Forbidden Door that was originally planned. That entire pay-per-view had to get ripped up and rebooked. Yeah. And they had to do it in a month. And you had people complaining about how terrible the build was. And it's like, what the fuck do you want them to do? Like Punk gets hurt. There goes your main event. Punk Tanahashi out the window. Now you have to move Moxley into the main event. So now Moxley can't team with fucking Shooter Amino and do that cute little thing on the undercard. Now that match has to change. And it was like a series of dominoes getting knocked over. And that entire card had to be redone from scratch. So you've had entire pay-per-views that were completely changed around. And, from that standpoint, sometimes it's hard to be critical of the booking of AEW this year because just this catastrophic series of events that had to be dealt with. And like you're saying, you can't have long-term plans. They keep getting torn up and thrown out. So that was a major theme of some of the stuff we talked about as well. Anything else from the call you wanted to touch on? I think that was basically it. There was a bunch of questions that, let me go through here. I'm going through my report. Oh, I guess we talked about the Rampage thing already in our earlier segment. That was another big talking point, I thought, that our listeners would be interested in. I think we hit them all.
Yeah, that's what I think we got them. But again, like I said, full analysis and the replay is
behind the paywall there.
Yeah, $5 tier for that one at flagshippatreon.com. So let's get to ROH Final Battle 2022, December 10th, this Saturday, from College Park Center in Arlington, Texas. Available on pay-per-view, traditional pay-per-view, as well as fights if you're outside of the U.S., voicesofwrestling.com/fight. I would appreciate it if you can order on that link if you're going to order it on Fight. Yeah, it is an interesting show because it is taking place at 4 p.m. Eastern, I think is the official, like the 0 hour thing is at 3 p.m. Eastern, I believe. And the official show itself, I think I have that correct, is 4 p.m. Eastern. So 3 p.m. Central is when the show actually kicks off. So an interesting time. I'm very curious how the buys are for that, because that's a really kind of a weird time, especially during the holiday season, to kind of plop down at 3 p.m. on a Saturday. Might be a tough one for a lot of people. We'll see what ends up happening. But there are new matches, so I am going to do some Dynamite spoilers here.
Very quickly, he did also note the reason they're doing that. He said the first two pay-per-views were such successes that they're playing with house money this time around, and they decided to experiment here. So they want to see
what happens,
if Saturday afternoon is a viable time to run a pay-per-view. So he even admitted that they're doing some experimentation with the day and the time on this one. So now, when did WWE announce that Deadline was going to be happening the same day? Because
let me find out. It was definitely after. No, they were avoiding. I think there's UFC fights on Saturday. I want to say that I think they're trying to avoid.
Because I'm wondering if
there's UFC 282, which I think is what their initial goal was, to avoid that.
Right, but then WWE jumped in like they always do and ran the same day.
What are you saying? No, come on, it just happened.
Okay, so I was just curious. I don't know if they had.
Yeah, I'm 90% positive Deadline got announced after Final Battle got announced.
And a lot of people say, well, they're not running at the same time. But as we've talked about a million times, it's about not allowing Tony Khan and ROH to steal the headlines this week, to have all the headlines on Saturday, to have all the headlines on Sunday.
Right, our show talking about Deadline at the beginning and stuff.
Right. And we just proved it. And, so that's why WWE does this. And then they may not run head to head. That gives them plausible deniability to say, oh, well, we didn't run head to head. Just like when they moved NXT to Wednesdays to go head to head with Dynamite, the plausible deniability there was, oh, we've always been on Wednesdays. Right. Thinking that people, well, a lot of people are stupid and did buy it.
People are very stupid about it.
Thinking that people are stupid and aren't going to say, now, wait a minute, you weren't on TV going head to head, though. You intentionally waited to, and we all know that's the case. But that's the case here, too.
So Final Battle, October 19th is what I found the date for Final Battle announced. And I think the date for NXT Deadline was sometime in November, like the first week of November. So far after.
Yeah, very, very much intentional, and for the reasons that we just said.
All right, so these are the new matches. So again, if you are hell-bent on avoiding Dynamite spoilers, now would be a good time to, if you're listening on the edited podcast, jump ahead a little bit. If you're listening on the live feed, I don't know, pause, mute, go make a sandwich for 20 minutes or something like that. How about I start with the new matches, Joe? Is that okay?
Oh, yeah, it's fine.
So, hey, if you're going to avoid, this is the time to avoid. All right. FTR will be defending the ROH World Tag Team titles in a double dog collar match against the Briscoes.
Wow.
That's why he said, fucking wait. Hey, where's FTR? Just wait.
So they're going to do a third match.
You. Yes.
So they're doing a third match. Man, the Briscoes have to win. I mean, They have to. They can't get beat 3 in a row, right?
No. They got to win this one.
I mean, you would think, and we know he has them under contract. So now if they weren't under contract, you could say, all right, well, let's just beat them out of the territory. Establish that FTR are the dominant team. And then, that's doing business the right way, right? But if you're keeping them around, man, how can you justify having them lose 3 times in a row? But double dog collar match, my God. And that ensures that it's going to be completely different than the first 2 matches as well.
Right. Which is a smart idea too. It's more to the Briscoe style that, I mean, they can work any style obviously, but it's more to, their quote unquote style. So I think that's one way to get out of having FTR get the loss or whatever. This is the Briscoes type of match or whatever. But no, it's a good way to make it feel distinctly different than the other 2 matches, which is smart.
Yeah, because they did a regular match, a best of 3 falls, and now they're doing double dog collar. All right, that sounds pretty great. What else we got?
That sounds great, yeah. FTR did lose. They did not win the AEW World Tag Team titles.
They lost to the Acclaimed.
They lost to the Acclaimed, which I don't know if that changes your thoughts on the match as well. They lost to the Acclaimed. No. Then here would be another loss for them potentially. So,
no. I think, well, it's not the time for that conversation. No, that's fine. It doesn't change my opinion on this match. Sounds awesome. And the pay-per-view, which I was not super high on coming into this segment, I think the build has been very questionable to this point. That has raised the stock of this pay-per-view in my eyes instantly.
Oh, yeah. That's a marquee match. People are saying, what's the marquee match? Why should I buy? Well, there you go. There it is right there. Yeah, you got it. Yeah. Point blank right there for you. You're going to get these 2 teams have had 2 great matches this year. Now they're making a dog collar match. So you're going to get a bloody war. Yeah, that's appointment television now on Saturday for me, for sure. Yeah. 6-man tag match also added here. This not as much of a marquee matchup for the ROH World 6-man tag team titles. Dalton Castle and the boys will be facing the Embassy, Brian Cage, Bishop Kaun, and Toa Leona.
Yeah, I'd like to see the Embassy win that. So that's obviously just a little undercard match. Doesn't really matter in the grand scheme. But I would like to see the Embassy win that. I love that Prince Nana is back.
Love Prince Nana, man.
You know what the Embassy needs, though, is a crown jewel. They need a crown jewel. And Brian Cage isn't really the right guy for that. So hopefully at some point they figure out the right person for that role. And at some point there's a crown jewel of the Embassy. That I want to see.
Love the Embassy. This is a pro Embassy podcast for sure.
Yes.
Swerve in Our Glory, Swerve Strickland and Keith Lee versus Shane Taylor Promotions, Shane Taylor and JD Griffey. So
all right, so hold on now.
People all hot and bothered. So
we're done with the new matches announced?
Yes. As far as what got announced on Dynamite, now we are back to what we knew before.
And I'm sure we'll get some on Rampage, and I'm sure we'll get some 0 hour stuff. And I think that Tony Khan putting together his pay-per-views, sort of not announcing everything until very late in the game. I mean, just about every pay-per-view, whether it's AEW or ROH, you don't know the whole card until Rampage, right? And it's like, I think that's by design, because I think he feels like pay-per-views are impulse buys. Data shows for decades that most people
said that. He's said that point blank. Like,
yeah, he's alluded to this. And data will tell you that most pay-per-views, whether that's wrestling, boxing, MMA, any kind of fight sport pay-per-view, the vast majority of the buys come in the last 24 hours. And the vast majority of those buys come in like the last hour. Like, that's just the way it is. People buy them very late. So this idea that you have to have your entire card put together and do these super thorough builds for all of your undercard matches, a month in advance or whatever, I personally think is very overrated. And I think what the AEW strategy is put some of these matches together super late so they're fresh in people's minds. And now we're talking over the weekend. Oh, wow, did you hear it's going to be the Briscoes and FTR in a fucking double dog collar match? And instead of setting that up a month ago, people forget about it and then maybe never come back. But, if you set stuff up on Rampage, it's fresh in people's minds, and maybe, they're more apt to order because it's so late in the game. I believe it's by design.
Yeah. People have just decided that it's like complete chaos and this guy has no fucking clue what he's doing and he's just flying by the seat of his pants. Some of this stuff might be intentional. You know what I mean? Like,
intentional. Yeah. And I think, look, when it comes to your main events.
Yeah, the main event should be built well in advance. You want to build. You want to have main event stories that have been built but yeah, your little down card 6th on the top
does not matter.
No, it's fine.
It does not fucking matter. And I do think, though, I don't want people to misunderstand me. There's an argument to be made that the CM Punk John Moxley main event, for example, at All Out came together too late in the game. You can make that argument.
Agreed. Yeah, totally.
Based on the number of buys that the show did, right? And I think it was Meltzer who, in fact, has said that you can make that argument as well. So for main events, I do think you want to have a strong multi-week build. Make sure you peak it at the right time. That's tricky too, right? Because I think that the Moxley MJF main event peaked too early. Now, there's the opposite, right? So All Out, they built the pay-per-view too late, right? The next pay-per-view, what was the name of the Moxley MJF? I mixed these up all the time. Full Gear. I think that match peaked too early. I thought it felt super hot about 3 weeks out, and then it cooled by the end. I thought the match felt cold. So it's tricky. You want to, with your money matches, get a good build going for a number of weeks, but you also want to make sure you peak them at the right time. And that's just and that's trial and error. That's sometimes pay-per-view builds work well and sometimes they don't. This particular pay-per-view, and again, we're recording this show. We're doing this show live during Dynamite. So I don't know what happened on Dynamite. I don't know what's going to happen on Rampage. I can only speak on what I've seen so far.
I'm not going to go to Rampage spoilers for people that are wondering. Like, I know people have, a few people have said, "Hey, well, you guys can talk about what's going on." I don't want to read through Rampage spoilers and try to figure out what was happening. We'll watch the show.
We're not doing that. So we'll talk about the matches that are announced. But so, my opinion, I feel like this pay-per-view build has been lousy. The main event, the Jericho Castagnoli match, I think it's a very much a WWE style stip where if Castagnoli loses, he has to join the Jericho appreciation. So I hate that. I hate it. I don't want that in my Ring of Honor wrestling or my AEW wrestling, those WWE style stips. And I know people are going to say, well, that's the point of Jericho's gimmick. I understand that. That doesn't mean I have to like the stipulation. I don't like it. I didn't like the 4-way last time. It's just, it ended up being a pretty decent match. But I don't like that stip. And, I didn't feel like Final Battle I don't feel like Final Battle has been a hot show coming into this week.
No, I agree. And one of the
now, if you ask me on Saturday, I might have a different answer, but I don't know what's happening tonight or on Friday yet.
Right. I'm kind of with you as well. I think it's been what's weird is that ROH has been it's been on a lot of AEW television. They've talked about the ROH title. You've had the ROH title defended. You've heard the names. You've heard this. You've seen a lot of the people. And yeah, it all kind of felt like, well, yeah, they're doing this for Final Battle. They're doing this for Final Battle. It made all the sense in the world that you're going to want to feature ROH as much as you can leading up to Final Battle. And then as we got here to this point, it was like, all right, well, here Final Battle's here. Like, what do we have? And we have, only a couple matches announced and things seem a little shaky. Obviously the FTR Briscoes thing helps a lot. And I am fully expecting this to still be a pretty good show. But yeah, I think the build has been a little lackluster for a lot of the stuff thus far, just because it's felt like we've had a lot of Ring of Honor presence on TV, but we haven't had a whole lot of build to this show, a lot of real intrigue into the show. And now we're here and it's like, oh shit. Okay. Yeah. Here's the other matches we got to put on the show now. So it just feels like a lot of it is being kind of finalized now as opposed to a couple weeks ago.
Well, that wouldn't even be a problem, except that there hasn't been a match that I'm super into that they have been built.
Right. Like Claudio and Jericho. I'll be honest. I had next to no interest in Claudio.
That's why I brought that one up. I'm not super into the main event. So to me, this build has been like, well, there's nothing yet that I'm ready to sink my now. Briscoes, FTR.
Yeah, put those two fucking teams in a dog collar match. I'm in. I'm listening.
Now you have my attention. Because that's a match I'm super into. And quite honestly, without having seen Dynamite, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's the money match of the show and not Jericho Castagnoli. And I know a lot of people are probably screaming at their devices that the whole hook here is Jericho working an ROH pay-per-view. I agree. I'm not saying that match isn't a
I'll
match.
tell you, the dog collar match got announced in the main event. The main event of Dynamite was FTR and Acclaim. They went out there and had what I could see from what I was watching on mute while doing the show here, that it looked like a pretty fucking great match. And then when it was done, they're holding up dog collars and they announced the match there. So it's like,
and when you have the two previous
not the Briscoes. I should note the Briscoes did not hold up dog collars. The Gun Club hold up the collars and said, "Hey, you're going to face the Briscoes because somebody is persona non grata on Turner Television right now." So
right, but my point here is because of the nature of the FTR Briscoe feud and how great the other matches were and what critical and business successes both of those matches were. To me, that's the main event of this show. Now, when I watch Dynamite, I might have a different, but because Jericho Castagnoli does not feel like a hot match at all. And a lot of that is Claudio has dropped the ball on all of his promos. And that's always been a weakness of his. He's been good in AEW, I think, up until this feud. He has not talked me into the building, so to speak. And Jericho's been great as he always is. Jericho's matches have been great, but I don't like the stipulation to that main event. And I don't think Claudio has held up his end. And it doesn't feel like a super hot match. And as soon as you told me about that dog collar match, I was like, oh, that's the main event. I mean, that's the real main event. It wasn't technically the main event of the last show, right? Wasn't it? Or one of the shows of there was a
it was definitely the Death Before Dishonor main event. I think Super Card of Honor was Bandito and Gresham, right?
Gresham and Castagnoli on one of them, and
no, that was that was not the main event. That was the opener of Death Before Dishonor. Remember?
You're right. And
it was definitely 100% the main event of Death Before Dishonor. It was definitely the main event of Death Before Dishonor. And then I want to say Supercard of Honor was Bandito and Gresham, and then FTR and Briscoes were like middle of the show or something like that, or fourth in the top or something like that.
Right, but we all knew it was the drawing match.
Sure, right.
But then by the second one, they're like, well, now we're just not even going to pretend it.
No, we know what the main match is. We know what the money match is. Yeah, and it's going to be the same with this one too.
And I believe it's going to be the same with this one, even if it doesn't go on last. I feel like, and again, we're doing this Wednesday night. They might do some super hot angle for Jericho Castagnoli, for all I know, on Rampage or whatever, or maybe they did on Dynamite. But this has been what's been the running through line on all of these ROH pay-per-views. It's been FTR versus Briscoes.
Yeah, and Wheeler and Garcia too. They have done.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, and that's going to be a solid undercard match. But I think that FTR Briscoes is the primary money match, and Jericho Castagnoli is it's. You think it'll go? I don't think it'll go. I think they'll put Briscoes on last.
I think so too. I think you want those guys to have 40 minutes to just go out there and do a bloodbath, and yeah, you want the ring to be disgusting. You want just them to be battered and bloodied, and two, like the Briscoes win. What a cool moment that would be too. The Briscoes winning the ROH title, and on the day then they announce, okay, we're moving forward with this or whatever. Those are the guys. You know what I mean? Like those are the guys that stuck with it from the beginning to the end, like literally the beginning, and they're still there. That if I'm booking that show, that's my final moment is the Briscoes with dog collars, bloodied, holding up those titles as they say, oh, you know what, come check us out on XYZ or whatever. You know what I mean? That's what I want. That's the visual I want for sure.
So Jericho Castagnoli, you have any other thoughts on that match?
I really don't. I hate the stip. I hate that if Claudio loses, he must join the Jericho pre-show.
So you hate the stip
I
too.
hate it. It's just that's you used the term last week a lot. WWE bullshit. Like, I don't want to see Claudio with his hands crossed going, I'm not happy to be in here. And then eventually he'll learn to accept Jericho and he'll start enjoying being a part of the Jericho I don't need any of that shit. And
I think he's losing.
Yeah. Oh, no, he's losing. He's joining Jericho.
I think he's losing because especially if they're getting TV, you want Jericho on it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And
yeah, Claudio's ROH champion does nothing for you. And I'll be honest, I have not loved Claudio this year.
That's where I'll disagree. I've loved him until this feud. I thought he got off on the right foot, and I've liked everything that he's done. I thought he was great in the Blood and Guts match. I thought the Blackpool Combat Club stuff was good. I haven't liked the build to this match or this feud with Jericho. That I have not liked. I don't.
Yeah, he's felt very uncomfortable with all of this, and it's like, maybe this is maybe a guy who just should be standing in the background and kicking ass and not necessarily. Because I don't know how much they edited it.
A man who can't grab the brass ring.
Yeah, I hate to agree with one Vince McMahon, but he may have been right on that one. Because I don't know how much got edited on the Rampage, but he was doing a promo segment with Jericho, and like 3 or 4 times had to just stop and like say, "Oh, I'm sorry," and then pick back up and Jericho, and it's like
you were at that Rampage where he cut that bad promo.
Yeah. I don't know how much got edited, but I don't know if it was still brutal on
No, they chopped it up plenty for TV.
Okay, so and it was obvious that because I mean it was like in the building, it was super uncomfortable. Like, oh no, this guy is bombing.
We didn't get any of the start and stops and any of that. They chopped it up, and it wasn't good. Don't get me wrong; it didn't. They Frankensteined it up, but and I don't think the pre-tape they did last week, I don't think was any good. His portion wasn't any good. Once he got up and left, and the other guys were just ragging on each other, it was entertaining. And they set up the Utah Garcia 3, but no, he just hasn't been good in this feud. That's and I like him, but it hasn't worked.
I think we figured out his role is either the second in a great tag team and the guy who just kicks ass, or just a guy that's in a unit and just kicks ass. Like that should be his cutting these WWE style promos of Jericho, I'll prove to you that I want that championship, and Jericho saying, well, I have an idea for you. Like that's just not what Claudio's thing is, and he should just be out there kicking ass.
I agree that he should just be. See, I think he could be the guy, but not doing this kind of stuff. I think he could be the guy if he's just doing serious pro wrestling.
Yeah, maybe.
I think he comes across like the guy, but I don't like him doing this stuff. I don't think he can carry it. But I thought he came across well when he was champion, and I thought that his run was pretty good up until this point. We'll just have to agree to disagree on that. But I think we both agree that this match feels cold.
Yes, and felt bad as the standard bearer, the bearer for this entire pay-per-view, but now,
right?
After this news, it's like, oh, okay, fine. It could
we have ourselves a real main event.
Yeah, it could be whatever. You know what I mean? Like this is now.
And Jericho's been fantastic all year.
Oh, Jericho fucking rocks. Yeah, he's had a great.
He has been phenomenal. Garcia Wheeler Utah 3. The first match was great. I believe it was on an ROH pay-per-view, and it was on its way to being like a match of the year contender, and it didn't quite get there because I think it ended abruptly. And then they had another match on a main event of a Dynamite, I think, that wasn't quite as good. It was a good match, but it wasn't as good as their first match. And now they'll have another one, and this will be the last one because, Wheeler Utah alluded to, in the promo saying, we'll finally put an end to this. So I'm looking forward to this now this isn't going to sell any pay-per-views, this match, but I think it has a chance to be the best match on the show, non-dog collar division, right? I mean, this has a chance to be a really awesome match. So I'm looking forward to this one. What do you think?
Yeah, I am too. I mean, it's these two guys, and they're great, and they're great wrestlers, and they fit that ROH Pierce style perfectly. They have a built-in story with them. Yeah, I can't imagine if you are a Ring of Honor fan, or hell, if you're a fucking wrestling fan, like I can't imagine why you wouldn't be excited about seeing this match and a conclusion, like you said, to this story and this whatever it is going to be. And yeah, there's background with the Blackpool Combat Club versus Jericho Appreciation Society. So there's AEW storylines kind of weaved into this as well. So yeah, I just think I can't wait. I'm excited to see what they put together. And these are two tremendous pro wrestlers that have just great chemistry with each other.
And this is a good example of a match where I don't need more of a build than this.
No. Two guys are going to go in, and one guy is going to prove that he's better than the other guy. There we go.
They don't like each other.
No, they're masculine maniacs, and they want to prove that one's better than the other.
Yeah. They don't like each other. They've been fighting over this belt for months, and this is going to be the final chapter. And this is good. That's good enough for me. Okay, that's good enough for me.
Nobody got hit by a car. There wasn't a Titantron of a Photoshop picture of Wheeler Yuta, and Daniel Garcia didn't go, you're in a dunce cap, which I guess people want other stories in wrestling now. But yeah, I don't need that.
And it's not a money match anyway, and I'm fine with it. Now, Mercedes Martinez Athena, I love the new Athena.
The new Athena rocks so much. God, it's great. I saw it live too. It was so good. She just fucking destroys people. It's great.
They had their little people tried to make it a controversy when she worked a little stiff with whoever that was.
Jody Threat.
Jody Threat. And then they leaned into it. And now it's her gimmick. And that's what you do. You lean in. And it is
she's cutting good promos too about like, hey, if I was a man, nobody would give a shit what I'm doing, but now I'm
a woman.
What?
And you know what? She's right.
Yeah, she's fucking right. I was about to say, even if that's her in real life or it's Athena the character, she's fucking right. Because if a guy was dropping people on their head, people would love it. She drops some people on their head, they're like, oh my god, oh,
working stiff.
She's gonna kill that woman. No, she'll be fine.
She's right. I mean, we no one complains when men work stiff. But you know, they've leaned into it, and it's breathed new life into her because she kind of was lost in the shuffle. I mean, honestly, she was just working YouTube shows and just happened to work that stiff match. And then they leaned into it. She was really, like, legitimately lost in the shuffle in that point. And this revived her.
They had no character for her either. She was just kind of happy to be there, like Athena, which is not.
Once the initial run, once that wore off and she lost to Jade or whatever, she was out of the mix.
Right. She was just like a smiley baby face, kind of just like, yeah, I'm here. Yeah. So yeah, she felt like nothing. She felt like a complete non-factor.
Yeah, it's just pumped new life into her, and Martinez has been out hurt, but this is a match that has had no build whatsoever. None. And I think those criticisms are valid when it comes to this one. Now, Martinez hasn't been around, but you can't stick a camera in her face and do some pre-tapes. You can't. I mean, this has had nothing. So
right. The only build is Athena destroying people on Dark and Rampage and all that, but she's been doing that anyway. So it's like,
and there's a lot of danger, I think, that her being from Texas and her being just so cool on TV that she's going to be the one to get cheered here. You know, I think in the building, the fans are going to be behind her. Why would you be behind Mercedes Martinez?
What is in the story of Mercedes that has made you want to cheer for her? Like,
she hasn't even been around,
right? And even if you're an ROH diehard, it's not like you're have a ton of built-in equity out of Mercedes Martinez. None. You have none, yeah. So,
and Athena just comes across cooler, and she's home. You know, so
yeah, but they better announce her from somewhere else because that's not going to go well if they.
Yeah, I mean, so you know, it's a match where I'm into what Athena's doing, but I can't sit here and tell you that it's some awesome build and people are fired up for it. Samoa Joe and Juice. I mean, a lot of people are surprised this wasn't Joe and Wardlaw. You know, they're going to do Juice, and that kind of just came out of left field with that announcement. I presume that they either did more tonight or will do something on Friday, or maybe they won't. I don't know. But again, this just looks like, you know, a pretty interesting match on paper that, again, doesn't really have much of a build behind it. So I don't know. What do you think of this match?
Yeah, it's very strange. It's just all of a sudden here's Rock Hard Juice Robinson. I'm like, what? All right, like this is one of the things I'm talking about where they've had.
Here's the thing: he's not even Rock Hard.
No,
he can't say that on Turner.
Oh, that's right. It's like, he's like Stroke Daddy. Yeah.
Yes, it is though. It's the Stroke Daddy thing. He can't say Rock Hard on fucking TBS, and he didn't. If you go back and watch that, no, he makes no mention of being Rock Hard.
Damn it.
Now, will he on the pay-per-view?
We'll see.
I hope so. Well,
better.
Ricky Starks came out with the Stroke Daddy jersey on pay-per-view.
He did. Yeah, you're right.
You know, so hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. But yeah, it's just kind of strange because we've had a lot. I mean, Joe's been involved in a lot of stuff lately, and that ROH TV title has been in a lot of things. And then it's just Juice Robinson. You're like, oh, all right. Yeah, this is one of the things where I'm talking about where it's like we've had a lot of Samoa Joe on television. We've had a lot of ROH World TV title on television. This week on Dynamite, we got it again. We have a Joe and what I saw was a really, really good match. I won't spoil that for you. But so you've had a lot of that, but then all of a sudden it's just going to be Juice Robinson. It's very, very, very strange and feels a little thrown together last minute here with Juice. And
here's the thing. I mean, how can Juice win? You can't beat Joe before he faces Wardlow.
No, that would be horrible.
So it kind of tips off that unless Wardlow costs them the match, which, you know, I don't know if I want to go down that road, and we don't know if Joe's future is ROH. We don't know if Juice's future is ROH. You know, this show is going to settle a lot of things in terms of where are these roster members going to land too? Where are the pieces going to end up once ROH has its own thing, which presumably it will by the end of the night. It was weird on the call. Somebody asked, I think it was actually WrestleJoy, Amy Nemedy, asked if Juice wins, is there a chance he would take the title to New Japan? Because obviously Amy's not paying attention, and I think she thinks Juice Robinson still works for New Japan. But then Tony gave an interesting answer. He was very enthusiastic. He's like, absolutely. I think Juice can take that title to Japan, and he can bring it to AEW, and he can bring it to ROH, and Juice can defend it everywhere. And I was like, that's a really weird answer, right? Because like Juice he's done with New Japan. But Tony was very, I don't know, maybe I read too much into the way he answered that. But I can't see Juice winning the match anyway. It wouldn't make sense.
No, it would, like you said, it'd be real lame to have Joe. And the only way they can get out of that is, like you said, Wardlow comes in and like costs him the match and points to his head as he walks backwards up the ramp. That would suck. I would hate that. I want these two bulls to just face each other at their best. You know what I mean? Like, let's just fucking go and see who's the better man, like type of thing.
Just give me a muscle buster clean in the middle. Right, I don't need all this bullshit. You know what I mean? Just give me wrestling. I'm going to get plenty of bullshit later that night on fucking whatever the hell the NXT show is called. Fucking Halloween Havoc 2. What is it? Oh, Deadline.
Deadline. Yes, Deadline.
Yeah. And then we have the Swerve in Our Glory, Shane Taylor, JD Griffey, which I think this actually has been very well built. And this has been a very, very strange point of contention for a lot of people. First of all, this is even if you stretch it, this is no higher than 4th or 5th from the top on the show. You have the Jericho match. You have the FTR match. You have the Pure match. You have the Samoa Joe match. You could even argue the women's match would all be ahead of this match in the pecking order. Maybe you can, if you're being generous, get this to 4th or 5th from the top. So it's firmly a down card, insignificant in the grand scheme, not going to sell a single pay-per-view, mid-card fucking match. How much more build do we really, like, just people hand-wringing this? They are aghast that Shane Taylor just randomly showed up on TV, again, with not enough of an explanation, even though the man literally explained why he was there.
I am Shane Taylor, and you know why I'm here. Yeah, and like,
he explained why he was there, who he was, and what his motivations were, and we still have people hand.
Well, again, I don't know who this man is, and I am too lazy, or I think.
Well, you know what?
You always say it's this thing that I don't know who this person is, and I don't understand this, so I'm going to assume that nobody else understands this. Or you play the headcanon of, well, I get it, but the corncob casual listeners aren't going to get it, or the casual viewers aren't going to get it, type of thing. Which both of those things are pretty terrible. Like you just don't want to admit that you don't know who Shane Taylor is because you don't watch that much wrestling or whatever, and whatever, who cares? It's not that big of a deal. Or like you said, there's always this weird headcanon thing where we have to create the dumbest human being on earth and then all funnel all of our wrestling discourse to that person, the dumbest human being on earth, and them how they watch the show, and we don't really have to do that.
Now listen, Shane Taylor's not exactly Dwayne Johnson, I'll grant you that.
That is correct.
But here's the thing, Rich, he told you who he was. He told you why he was there. He told you his relationship with Keith Lee. He told you why he didn't like Keith Lee. And then he told you why he wanted to beat up Keith Lee, and he challenged him to a match. And he did it all in 40 seconds. Shane Taylor knocked it out of the park in that segment.
Oh, he's great. I love Shane Taylor.
In less than a minute, he got everything. He explained everything and got everything over. So even if you don't know, even if you never watched Ring of Honor, even if you never saw Shane Taylor in your life, even if you don't know who Shane Taylor is, if you watched the fucking TV show and you paid attention, you now know everything you need to know about Shane Taylor and why he's there and why he wants to fight Keith Lee. He told you that he used to be Keith Lee's partner and that Keith Lee walked out on him the same way that Keith Lee walked out on Swerve. He laid it all out. Then he said, you know what, Keith? I haven't forgotten about it. My career went fine. I became the greatest Ring of Honor World Television Champion of all time. But now I want my revenge. I have a partner. His name is JD Griffey. I want to beat you up. So go find a partner. Rich, that's Wrestling 101.
Yeah, you made this point in our Discord that if we can't accept this as wrestling stories, then we've completely lost the plot.
We've completely lost the plot if I have a history with you.
Right, we used to run together. Now we don't run together. I don't like you and I want to face you. And here's my partner. Now you find a guy.
Now I'm challenging you because I want to beat you up.
Right. If we can't do that, then we're done. We're done.
If that's not enough of a build for you, I don't know what you want anymore. Because again, this isn't a main event match. It's arguably the number 6 match on the show. It's a down card match. It doesn't need anything. If you want to do more, maybe they did more tonight. Maybe they'll do more Friday. Maybe they'll do more on the pre-show. Great. I'm all for that. You want Shane Taylor to jump Keith Lee from behind on Rampage? That'd be awesome. But if they don't do
I don't think they need to do any more, man. I think
that's what I mean.
We used to be buddies. You turned your back on me. I'm here in your company now. And there's a pay-per-view on Sunday. Let's face each other. On Saturday, let's face each other. I think that's fine. I think that's okay. That sounds like wrestling, man. God.
More than enough. That's a classic pro wrestling build. I don't need any more. I'll take more.
I need Shane Taylor running Keith Lee over with his car, and then I will finally say, yes.
We need something. We need more builds, and we need a video package, and we need to make sure that everyone knows who Shane Taylor is, even though he told you who he was.
Right. We need to stop Rampage in its tracks and have somebody go, that is Shane Taylor, and he once was in Ring of Honor, and he runs Shane Taylor. But he did that. He also said, I'm Shane Taylor.
He did that. Right. No, they did do that. That's the thing.
But they didn't stop. People need you to stop. Well, that didn't even work either, because Excalibur said, hey, last time I saw Hangman Page in the ring, yada, yada, and people were still like, my brain.
They did stop. Renee said, Shane Taylor, what are you doing here? And then he told her what he was doing.
He did. Oh, she did. You're right.
We're getting to the point. We are getting to the point where even when they do the things that people say they should do,
it's not enough. It's not.
They're moving the right goalposts and saying it's still not enough. I mean, what more do you want? It's not as if they just put a graphic on the screen that said Shane Taylor and JD Griffey versus Keith Lee and a partner of his choosing, and just let it. That would be no build. That would be, okay, who the fuck is Shane Taylor and JD Griffey? Right? If they just put a graphic on the screen and had Excalibur run through it the way he runs through everything. But they didn't do that. They did build it. They did tell you who he was. They did have him explain his motivations. Then they had Swerve enter the scene. And now you have Keith Lee, who's like, oh, what do I do? Do I trust this asshole again? I guess I have to.
Yeah, I don't have anybody else right now, and my guy's challenging me,
I'm not getting punked by Shane Taylor, so I guess I'm going to have to trust this guy again. And now you have to, and here's the other thing about this match that people seem to be missing too. Shane Taylor does not fucking matter. He is just a conduit. He is just a bridge to get us to the next stage of the Keith Lee Swerve Strickland feud story. That's all. That's all this match is. That's all Shane Taylor is. It's to get us to the next chapter of what happens between Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland. And does that mean they come back and they live happily ever after and go back? Does that mean that Keith Lee turns on Swerve and goes back with Shane Taylor? Does this mean that Swerve screws Keith again? I don't know. That's why we watch. It's a good story because I don't know where it's going. But that's the other thing here. The match doesn't even really fucking matter. This is about the story between Keith and Swerve. And they found a cool way to do the next chapter of that story by digging into Keith Lee's past and this ghost of his past coming back to give him another problem that he doesn't need right now. I thought this was the best 40-second build I've ever seen.
I'm excited for this match. I've seen a lot of people say, like, oh, who gives a shit? I give a shit, man. Shane Taylor Promotions rocks. Keith Lee rocks. Swerve rules. JD Griffey's solid. Like, I love this. And it's got, like, for people that actually watch this television or enjoy wrestling, like, this is it's got history and it's a good build and it's a clean, easy, simple to understand story. I'm fucking into it, man. Like, I feel like, again, I'm taking crazy pills again when I just see the hand wringing about this, and I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm pretty fucking excited to watch this match. So I'm sorry.
Maybe you don't need weeks of. They got over what they need to get over with me in 40 seconds.
Well, like you said, if in pro wrestling now we've gone to the point where that's not enough to tell a story for some people, then I don't. Yeah, where are we at? What? Well,
you know what they need to do. You know what? Here's what they need to do. Keith Lee and Shane Taylor need to talk in a hallway while Jey Uso makes funny faces. Maybe that's what we needed. I don't know, Rich. I don't know anymore.
They need to both be in the ring doing a 25-minute promo segment where they go, talk.
Maybe this has passed me by. Maybe we're the crazy ones.
Yeah, I think every week I'm taking crazy pills. This Hangman Moxley stuff, I am taking crazy pills on this.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that for a second.
I don't want to. No more.
I know Fred Moreland wrote an article.
Yes, we have a great article at voiceswrestling.com that says explaining what doesn't need to be explained, the Hangman Moxley story, and very simple. It only takes a couple paragraphs to get there, but we explain what happens in the Hangman Moxley story and why they would want to fight each other.
I'm not going to be as polite as Fred. and I might insult a lot of our listeners. I've been insulting people for 11 years, so I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, you're not going to change now. Yeah, at this point.
I don't care if you're Lance Storm. I don't care if you're Dave Meltzer, although Dave on this particular topic seems to be on the right side of this one.
He is. Although, he just wanted more promos and more video packages. But
he wanted a video pack, but he understands
the story. He gets the story.
Yeah, right. He gets the story. But I don't care who you are. And I mean this with all sincerity. I really do. If you don't understand why Hangman Page is angry at Jon Moxley and why Hangman Page and Jon Moxley don't like each other, I think you're stupid. I know that sounds harsh. I think you're a dull person who might be stupid. They have been soft feuding with each other ever since the ladder match, eons ago, where, you know, Hangman knocked him off the ladder or whatever, and then they've kind of been crossing paths since then. They had a world title match. Moxley concussed him, and now Hangman wants his revenge. If you don't understand, if you think that's too confusing or not explained well enough for you,
or doesn't
I'll
fit,
grant you this,
or doesn't fit in kayfabe, that's what Lance Storm's thing is.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, okay.
But if you're either, and I'll grant you this benefit of the doubt, maybe you're not stupid. Maybe you just don't watch the show. Maybe you haven't watched every episode of Dynamite like I have, or Rich has, or some of the people listening have, and maybe you've missed some of this. Ignorance is something different. Okay? But if you watch and follow the promotion and you don't understand why these two don't like each other, I just have to assume that you're dumb. Because this couldn't be more straightforward. And it's time to stop acknowledging these ridiculous arguments.
Thank you.
And these because now look, Lance Storm is the kind of guy who often gets hung up on these weird details. He's always been a little quirky that way. Okay? But this one's especially stupid because, like you said, now the argument has shifted to, oh, well, it was a legitimate injury. So how do we
in kayfabe, Hangman should not be mad that he got concussed because every single match guys are trying to concuss each other, which is
the dumbest fucking thing.
Exactly what it is. No, not really.
So how many feuds have there been historically in pro wrestling based on one guy injuring the other? And
a lot.
Whether they were kayfabe. I mean, are you then telling me that Bruno Sammartino shouldn't have been mad at Stan Hansen in kayfabe? Right? Like, how far do you want to take this? I mean, when someone gets legitimately injured in a match, that's handing the promoter a storyline on a silver platter. That's a free storyline that you didn't have before. It's a silver lining for a bad situation because now you can make money off of the legitimate injury when the guy comes back from the legitimate injury. And this has been something done in pro wrestling for decades, hundreds, if not thousands of times. Again, this is one of those things where I don't know where we are anymore as wrestling fans. If something like this is too hard to comprehend or doesn't make sense, I don't know where we are anymore. It makes me question whether this thing maybe has passed me by. I don't get it anymore. This couldn't be more self-explanatory or simple. And
just rooted in like actual human behavior. Like why wouldn't Hangman Page be annoyed by that? Yes, it is a pro wrestling match, but he still got knocked out and the guy made fun of him about it. And then he went away for a couple months because he got knocked out. And then he came back and the guy made fun of him again about it. Like, of course he'd be fucking pissed about that. He got punked out. He lost the match. He lost the title. And he had to miss a bunch of time because of the way that the guy, you know, he hit him, whatever. Like, and I understand the goal of a wrestling match. I don't think that in kayfabe wrestlers are wrestling to incapacitate the other person and take them out for months at a time. Most of them are wrestling to win a match. You know what I mean? Like, yes, if that is that a byproduct of it? No one's out there trying to break each other's necks. No one's out there trying to concuss everybody. It's just it's simulated sport. It's athletic competition. Like, you're not trying to. I'm not out there when I'm playing basketball hoping that I tear the ACL of my opponent that I'm playing, or I elbow him in the face so that I can beat them. And no, that's not what my goal is. Like,
don't you just feel stupid explaining this?
Why am I doing this? I can't believe I'm doing this, and I don't want to do it anymore. At the end of the day, why would Hangman Page not? Why? I don't understand why Hangman Page is mad. Well, I don't know. He got concussed, punked out, and the guy made fun of him, and he wants to get his revenge. I think that's pretty simple.
You know what I don't understand? How Kevin Owens doesn't see a door propped open with Jey Uso's head sticking out making funny faces.
Right,
that's what I don't understand. That's fine. That I don't understand.
Well, the show that Lance Storm works on, a man was murdered this week, and that's okay. But yeah, the
irony of Lance Storm complaining about this very simple story with an Impact logo behind his head.
Right, well, somebody was murdered on his show
where they killed a character. Now I know Lance isn't okay with that, but hey,
that Impact logo's still back there.
He's paying his mortgage.
Yeah,
right. So, it's I feel silly even talking.
We spent
about
10 minutes on this, of why a man concussed another guy and took him out for a couple weeks and a couple months or whatever, and the guy that got concussed came back and wants his revenge on the guy, and we have to explain it of why this would make sense. This is why I think I'm taking crazy pills, or like you said, the thing has passed me by. I don't know what. I don't know anymore. I don't know. I think it's only a select few people that are doing this and just continue to regurgitate it, but it does seem to grow in numbers every single. I don't know if that's just
it's me. A lot of fans. It's a lot of.
Well,
fans.
They start parroting this too because these are people they believe in and people that they trust and yeah, they these people have said a lot of things that they've agreed with, and all of a sudden they're just going on these just insane it gets parroted a lot. It does.
Maybe Bruno Sammartino should have come back from the broken neck and said, Stan Hansen's supposed to try to break my neck, so I'm not mad at him.
Right. Hey, water in the bridge, athletic competition, put her here, pal. And then they handshake, and then, Bruno goes to face somebody else. Why does
no rematch needed, Vince. Stan is just doing his job, so I'm not mad. Let's just shake hands and go on our merry way. Let's not make any money off of this. I mean, what are we doing here?
Right, Stone Cold Steve Austin when he came back from Owen Hart. You know what, pal? It's all right, man.
You're doing your job. Nicely done, breaking my neck.
I'm so glad you broke my neck and I was out for 8 months. So you know what? You're the IC champ now. Continue being the IC champ, pal. You won this one. So
yeah, you got the better of me, you rascal. Right? No.
Yes, I know Stone Cold Steve Austin won the match. Don't comment. I know.
Yeah, we would get the idea. It's like that's the basis. That's like the
athletic competition, competition in anything, not even athletic competition. It's like a board game. You can play a board game with somebody and lose and want a rematch because you lost. Like we're explaining wanting to beat somebody. What? God, what are we doing?
The core root of pro wrestling is revenge.
Also, these are uber masculine morons that just maniac morons. Like, we need to stop treating them as they must be logical human beings. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make logical sense for Hangman Page.
No, but it does.
But A, it does, and B, he's a fucking maniac. They're these uber masculine maniac dudes that want to fucking kill each other.
We're taking this too far. Like, this is why it's silly to even have to explain any of this. The guy put him out. He wants his revenge. That's the basis of like a million pro wrestling storylines.
I don't know anymore.
Including many that have drawn shit tons of money. I mean, you can't chalk it all up to bad faith.
No, we're getting past that point. Yeah, we're getting past just simply bad faith.
We're simply losing the plot on what pro wrestling is supposed to be. And, I blame, I blame WWE. I really do. And I know people are tired of me saying shit like this, but 20 years of that company doing things one way has indoctrinated a lot of people into thinking that's the way. I blame them. That company sucks so bad and it has for so long, and it's rotted people's brains. And it still sucks. It's allegedly so much different now. They're playing poker on Raw and doing 1.5 million viewers. So it's the same old shit. But when we can't just have, hey, I don't like you, I'm challenging you to a match, be a sufficient build for a fucking undercard pay-per-view match, and when we can't understand why a wrestler would want revenge for another wrestler injuring him, we have completely lost the plot. We've completely lost it. And we've got to reel it back in at that point. And you were right. I mean, Dave understands the feud. He just thinks they should have hammered it home more. Maybe replayed the fucking knockout, whatever the fuck. All right, whatever. But, I mean, if you pay attention to AEW, you understand why these guys don't like each other. Maybe Lance doesn't watch the show every week or something. I don't know. Or again, maybe people are just stupid, Rich. I'll be the one to say it. I don't care. I don't think you're very bright if you don't understand why these two characters wouldn't like each other. You've seen the promos, or have you? I mean, I assume people have seen the promos and saw the match and know the history, but maybe they don't. And maybe that's the other thing. Maybe history, it's hard. Maybe history doesn't matter to a lot of people because it doesn't matter in the other company. And it's a new pay-per-view cycle. And
right, we're also supposed to have goldfish brains and just say, why do they not like each other right now? It's
right.
Like, well,
yeah. And I'm not joking. Maybe that's a part of this.
Right.
Whereas,
I know they did that 2 months ago, but why are they upset at each other now? It's like, well,
yeah, right.
What happened 2 months ago?
Like that's old new. Like, everything has to be, starting from scratch every time, because again, another company taught us that that's how they tell their stories. And this has been a company from day one that doesn't forget anything. Everything that has happened still matters in the future. And we talked about that for a long time. It's very Dragongate-like in that way, where old grudges don't just magically go away. Old feuds don't magically go away. These people behave like real people, and it evolves and it continues on. I think it's fucking embarrassing that we have to spend time on this show explaining why Moxley and Hangman don't like each other. That's fucking embarrassing.
It's pretty
that
sad.
We have to do that. That there's people that like genuinely don't get this. It's crazy we have to waste our time to explain a basic pro wrestling story that can't be any simpler. Now, I don't want people who don't understand listening to this show. I don't even want you listening.
Right. If the Hangman Moxley thing has confused you, maybe go listen to the Ringer. Go listen to the Ringer. Go listen to the Ringer.
Yeah, Don't Be Pete has a show and it's a click away. We're not your speed. I'm sorry. Maybe that sounds like, I don't know what the word would be, arrogant or uppity. I don't care. I don't care. We're operating on different planes at that point. Now, we done with the final battle. What else?
We're done with final battle. That's Joe. We're done in America. We only got Japan topics left to go. So I don't know if you want to ask me it. I think we can do it if we need. We got about 20 minutes left in the show. If you're down, I'm
too fucking angry. Let's do another commercial. And then maybe I'll come down from my tree.
Okay. Well, you got to plug the Patreon then. So go ahead. Plug the Patreon.
You want to play? All right, let's plug the Patreon.
Let's do it.
So
yeah.
we got a lot going on the Patreon. You know what makes me happy? Making money. So let's plug the Patreon. We got a lot going on. We mentioned earlier that we have the full audio and the analysis of the Tony Khan media call for Final Battle. I don't know any others. Rich, all the other sites, they all look. You can get the audio anywhere, right? I mean, you can literally get the audio in probably a dozen different outlets, but what you cannot get is Joe Lanza's detailed analysis of the media call. You can only get that in one place, and that's the flagship Patreon on the $5 tier. I don't know anyone who's digging as deep as I am into these media calls and giving you the type of analysis you're getting from me for these calls. So we've got that on the $5 tier. Rich is starting a new series, Christmas with the Captain. Do you want to briefly tell people about that? Go ahead.
Yeah, so what we're going to do with Christmas with the Captain is we are going to review, discuss a little bit different. It's not going to be like match by match reviews or whatever, but we're gonna cover Christmas themed things in wrestling. So the first episode is going to cover, how the Christmas Day tradition of wrestling began, and then we're going to bookend that with the beginning of the first episode, or the end of the first episode, I should say. We'll touch on the 1982 world-class Christmas Star Wars main event, Kerry Von Erich versus Ric Flair, featuring a very, very, very famous angle that ignited the world-class territory and has been copied and redone 10,000 times by every promotion under the sun because of how good and how effective it was. So we're going to cover that. Then we're going to jump all over the place. We'll talk about Santa Claus. Many people have said that they want me to cover a Jun Kasai Blood Xmas, so we'll do that. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Christmas creature. We might dive into December to Dismember, but it'll essentially just be, every single show will have a couple topics about Christmas related things, whether it be matches, shows, wrestlers, whatever. So it's just going to be kind of Christmas themed stuff. Just fun, something fun to kind of finish out the year and finish out the holiday season here at Flagship Patreon. So I'm excited about it. Looks like a lot of fun. I've already started watching some of the stuff and taking some notes. And yeah, we'll have some fun with it. It's going to be a really cool series, I think.
So on the $10 tier, I have a new written piece up. I did I ranked the top 25 tag teams of 2022. So, and that's just not it's not a listicle. I don't just have a list of 25 teams with a small blurb. I've got about 4,000 words of analysis on my ranking of the top 25 teams worldwide, across the world of wrestling for the year 2022. And there's also some recommended matches. It goes through my thought process of why I ranked all the teams where I did. Rich, did you take a look at that without giving anything away in terms of the rankings? If you start at the number one team and work your way up the list, where is the first number where you would have a point of contention?
The first number I'd have a point of contention.
So in other words, do you disagree with my number one?
No.
Would you disagree with my number two?
No.
How about number three?
3, I think you're good. 4, I think you're good as well. 5, yeah, I might start there. I don't think I've loved 5 as much as you did this year. I'd probably, if I were you, I'd probably swap 5 and 6.
You think 7 is too high based on what really is?
Nah, I don't.
You'd still have them in there
I think
somewhere.
when you shine as bright as they have for those, yeah, no, I don't think so.
Okay.
And then I think I'm pretty good. 8, I love. That's a great one. That's like anybody that has a problem with that is just not watching. 9, solid. 10, I probably would have 10 a little higher, but I totally understand your explanation for why.
Oh, you'd have them higher.
You'd have them a little higher. Have them a little higher
because the resume is a little thin.
It is thin. But like I said, it's one of those things where when you shine as brightly as they have, I think. Yeah. But other than that, the top 10, I think it's a solid. I don't know that there's anybody out of your top 10 that I would say, oh, you got to get that team in your. Because then once you get to your 11, 12, 13, 14, I'm like, oh yeah, those guys all kind of belong, out of the top 10. To me, it felt like a very clear cutoff of the top 10.
So the top 10 you agree with, although you might swap them around.
Yeah, like your number 5, I might throw down at 8 or 9 or whatever, and your number 6, I might push up a little bit more. But yeah, your top 10 is like pretty much almost exactly probably what I would have my top 10 be. Any
obvious snubs from the 25 at all?
I don't know that I.
And on the opposite question, is there anyone in the 25 where you're like, what the fuck did you see in those guys this year?
Your 15's a little. I mean, 15, I like 15, but I don't think that they've been good.
So
you know what I mean?
15 you might not even have in there at all, let alone that high.
Yes. I don't know if I'd have the number 15. I like your number 15 team, but I don't think they've done enough, or they've done it to belong there. No,
a top 25 placing, especially that high. Okay. All right, so that I think is a good teaser to get people wondering.
You won't believe what Joe ranks at number 8. We've done a BuzzFeed. Like, you're not gonna believe who's number 8.
Yeah. When I looked at it, I will say that number 11, which I think might be the controversial one, I wasn't even expecting to have number 11 that high, but I could not justify putting them in the top 10, but I also couldn't really justify putting any of those other teams ahead of them. I think they're right where they belong.
Yeah, I agree.
I think they're right where they belong. Yeah. So anyway, that's a interesting piece that is on the $10 tier, and I put a lot of work into that. So I'd appreciate if people are interested, if they check that out. Match of the week this week was actually 3 matches. It was Bobby Eaton running the WCW Gauntlet from September of 1990.
Love this concept. Need this back. We need this back.
Yeah, so if you don't know anything about the WCW Gauntlet, you'll learn a thing or two with this week's match of the week on the $5 tier. Basically, it was a short-lived concept where WCW would take a wrestler, and since WCW had shows on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday on TBS, the wrestler would have to win 3 consecutive matches on each of the weekend's 3 shows, and if they completed the gauntlet, they'd win $15,000.
That's life-changing money.
And if they lost any of the matches along the way, the three blockers, as they were called, would all split the money and split the $15,000. So this week's match of the week takes a look at Bobby Eaton's attempt to run the WCW gauntlet, and his opponents are Tracy Smothers. And then if he gets past Tracy Smothers, he could potentially face Ricky Morton and then Sid as the number 3 blocker. So a very challenging gauntlet for Bobby Eaton, 2 of his arch rivals, right? And then if he gets by those guys, he's got the daunting Sid Vicious to look forward to in the third match. So that was the match of the week. And did you wrap up the Gold? Are we done with Goldberg?
The Goldberg is no. We're in November. We still got December, man. We got Starrcade coming up. Yeah, I did November. That just dropped. It's November of 1998, Chapter 5 of Goldberg 173 and 1, covering Bam Bam's return to WCW, his re-debut and inserting himself into the Goldberg feud, and then the very, very clear and obvious master politicians plotting their devious coup, which you could see coming a mile away, with Kevin Nash, Eric Bischoff, and Hulk Hogan, faking that they're all fighting and they're all in trouble, working the boys. Always a good thing to work the boys. So we'll touch on that. This is the most depressing episode because you can see the iceberg coming and you're like, oh dear God, it's coming. So it's like it was a lot of fun to do this episode in November 1998, and there's some really fun Bam Bam Goldberg shit that if you haven't watched in a while is just really, really good. But yeah, we're getting this month will be the last chapter, so we will conclude with December of 1998, everything that happened for Goldberg in that month, and then of course him losing at Starrcade 1998, and then we'll do a little bit of what happened after that, of course the finger poke of doom, and just what happened with Goldberg for the rest of his WCW run, which was not great. So that'll be the episode to definitely, if you haven't checked this out, this month's episode will be the big one. This will cover everything, but you should really listen to all chapters. Really recommend.
Yeah, I see now that the last one just covers November specifically.
Yep.
None of the rest. Okay. And coming up this week, okay, so listen closely. There will be an instant reaction for ROH Final Battle on Saturday, but it will not be a live instant reaction. What does that mean? It will be on the $5 tier, and it will obviously not be live. So for all of you $5 tier people who never get to hear the instant reactions because we do them live, for Final Battle, it's going to be an old school, regular old instant reaction, not live, and it'll be on the $5 tier. So if you're not a subscriber and you want to hear the instant reaction show for Final Battle, and you're one of those people who just drops in, a lot of you subscribe during pay-per-view months to hear the instant reactions. You don't need the sub on the $10 tier this time around. You can save yourself $5. And you can get the ROH Final Battle instant reaction on the $5 tier because it's not a live show. So that's number one. Number two, possibly coming up at some point this week, we've discussed possibly doing a reaction show to the Observer Hall of Fame results that are coming out in this Thursday's Observer. We're still working out whether we can do that and what day we can do it, but that would also be on the $5 tier if we do sort of a Hall of Fame wrap-up show once Meltzer publishes the results in the Observer in the wee hours on Thursday night/Friday morning. So that could be Friday, that could be Monday.
Yeah, we'll do something. We just don't know when exactly. It's all.
We're going to do it. It's sometime in the next week. Is that safe to say? Sometime in the next
absolutely
7 days, we're going to have a Hall of Fame wrap-up show to wrap up and conclude our Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame coverage for this year as well. So a lot of content this week. I would recommend just going $10 tier so you get that tag team article and everything else that comes with it. But a lot of stuff on the $5 tier too on the Patreon side. So I think we do have a few minutes left, Rich.
We do. So now, and I do want to say that I know that we had the stream issue a little bit earlier, and we can go a little over because normally I would say, this is a good time to do an overrun, but just in case, if maybe that first half of the show is cut off or there are issues with it, we'll do this one for free. So Joe, ask me the question.
So from what I understand, people who are jumping in late on the live feed cannot listen to the first half hour.
I think that will be corrected once I end the stream, but if it's not, we'll figure it out. I'll see what I can do, but.
You may have a backup, or you may not have a backup.
Sometimes the backup works, sometimes the backup doesn't work. Yeah, we'll see. So, I mean, it's not like anything was missed. We fucking talked about NXT.
We talked about the ratings.
Ratings. Well, no, I think the ratings were. Oh, we did talk a lot about the ratings.
It was the ratings, and then we buried NXT.
Yeah. Well, shit. So, I think we'll be good. But in case we're not, I apologize.
So it could either be lost entirely, or it could be there with really, really shitty quality, or you could have a backup and everything will be good.
Right.
So we have no idea what the fuck.
We don't know the scenario until we end the show.
Any option?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, in that case, we do have a few minutes left, though, and I do have a question for Rich, and that question is: do you want to go bouncing around Japan?
Let's do it.
I almost said around the NFL, since I've been doing that every week with Collins on the NFL
with the same
show,
music?
Yes, the Orient Express theme as we talk about the NFL games. Which, by the way, people looking for an NFL show this week, there will not be one because this is normally the day that we do the NFL show. So the NFL show is canceled. That's another house cleaning note as we over the Orient Express music here. So anyway, Rich. Number of topics to get to. Who's leading who through these bouncing topics? How do you want to do this?
Why don't you start? Well, I'll lead you through this one because I have not watched the most recent ones of this, but I want you to kind of chime in real quick. Super Junior Tag Tournament World Tag League in New Japan. Super Junior standings as of today. We have five teams all tied with 12 points. Alex Zane and El Lindemann. What's that? Sauce Hearts, I believe is their name. 12 points at 6-2. Ace Austin and Chris Bay of the Bullet Club, 12 points, 6-2. TJP and Francesco Akira, 12 points, 6-2. Bushi and Teton, 12 points. And then Leo Rush and Yo all have 12 points. Effectively, everybody else, I think, is pretty much done. They're all out, right? There's no way they can catch up. So
there's only one match. There's only one match left.
Oh, duh. Yeah. Okay. So they're all done. So it's between those 5 teams. Now you have caught up on this. You've watched everything. What can you share from last week that people need to check out, and kind of how do you see this scenario playing out the last match and then the final?
I've watched every show with the exception of the show that happened on the 7th. But in terms of the junior tournament, not much has changed from last week. I think TJP and Akira have clearly been the standout team of the entire tour, quite honestly, regardless of weight. But a lot of the other teams have made up some ground. I think that Ace Austin and Chris Bay have been fantastic. I think they've been an excellent team. Leo Rush and Leo Rush looks great. I know we talked a little bit about that last week. And we'll go through the scenarios on the final night with those 5 teams. The skips for me as the tour moved along were Taguchi and Clark Connors. I have no time for Taguchi. All of their matches were identical. Taguchi pulling his pants down, showing the red underwear. I've had enough. Taguchi needs to be sent. I used to call it Nakanishi land because Manabu Nakanishi was the first guy that they really banished to the prelims and wasn't involved in tournaments or any matches of consequences. And then slowly they kind of moved Tenzan to Nakanishi land, and then Kojima, and then Yuji Nagata, and then Hanma, and then Jushin Liger, right? It's time for Taguchi to be moved to Nakanishi land. And maybe we should call it Makabe land.
Yeah, I was going to say Makabe's there right now, kind of, yeah.
Makabe's there now. He's firmly there. He doesn't do, Great Bash Heel have been on this tour. They're just not in the tournament. So he's another example. Taguchi's 43 years old. His act has grown tired. There's plenty of people now. They have a deep roster. It's time for Taguchi to be moved to Makabe land. I'm so sick of this guy. Kanemaru and Doki have been a lot of fun. They upset TJP and Akira in the main event on the show on either the 4th or the 5th. And, they've been good. Kushida and Kevin Knight, they usually work the opener because Kevin Knight's involved. But they've been a super fun team. Sho and Dick Togo have been an instant skip. And as we look at the final night, so the 7th was the show that happened this morning. The 9th is a mixed card where I think that's the heavyweight card. So the next show is on the 9th, and that'll be a heavyweight show. And then we have the show on the 10th, which is the final block night for the juniors. All right, so let's look at this. Knight and Kushida versus Flying Tiger, meaningless. Leo Rush and Yo versus Bushi and Teton. That's an important match. TJP and Akira versus Ace Austin and Chris Bay. That's an important match. Connors and Taguchi versus House of Torture. Meaningless. And then the Sauce Hearts, and they have this as listed as the main event, against Kanemaru and Doki. So we talked about this last week, but that sure screams upset to me. Okay, where Kanemaru and Doki will probably knock them off. So it'll come down to the winners of the matches between Rush and Yo versus LIJ, and Akira and TJP versus Bullet Club, and then whoever has the tiebreaker between those two teams that win. Because the winners of those matches will be tied at 14, and it'll come down to who beat who. The bottom line here is I think this is virtually impossible to work out. They can go any number of ways. You wouldn't think that Akira and TJP will win, though, because they're the champs. So that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So it comes down to Lio Rush and Yo, Bushi and Teton, or probably Ace Austin and Chris Bay. I think the Strong Hearts team will get upset by Kanemaru and Doki and knock them out. So, who do you think that they'll put in a Wrestle Kingdom match? It's not going to be Kevin Knight. So let's knock out Knight and Kushida. So we're looking at either Flying Tiger, Chaos, or the LIJ team. What do you think, Rich? Or do you disagree with any of the eliminations?
No, I think I'm with you on that. I think there's a strong possibility, too, that you have... I
said Flying Tiger, but I meant they're out. I meant LIJ or Bullet Club.
Yes,
Bushi and Teton or Ace Austin and Chris Bay.
Yeah, I think Bushi and Teton seem like...
Or the Lio Rush Yo team.
Yeah, I think the Bushi and Teton seem like the most likely team to me. I do also think with it being a one-night Wrestle Kingdom... I mean, they're doing the Wrestle Kingdom in Yokohama, but that doesn't really count. With it being the one-night Wrestle Kingdom, do you think there's a possibility that two of those teams could be in there? They could do a three-way, they could do something like that, so that you can't just pick one. You know what I mean? I hate to do that cop-out. I would say if you're doing a one, it's Bushi and Teton would be my pick, but I think there's a strong possibility that there could be Ace Austin and Chris Bay and Bushi and Teton could make it through.
Well, you'd have to have a three-way tie for that involved Catch 22, which is Akira and TJP, because they won't do a tiebreaker for a three-way tie if all of the teams, if they're all 1-1 against each other, right? If they do any other two-way tie, they're just going to break the tie with whoever won the match. So I understand you can never discount the possibility of a three-way. So that means you would knock out Ace Austin and Chris Bay, because in order to do the three-way tie, you need the champs involved, and they need to win that match. So that would knock out Austin and Bay. So then you would have Akira and TJP, the Sauce Hearts team, and the winner of the Lio Rush Yo versus LIJ match. And then you'd have the three-way tie, and then you do the three-way match at the Dome.
Right.
That'd be the only way to get to that. And then you'd have to look and see and make sure that they're all 1-1 against each other, which I'm not going to do that right now. But
of the scenario you gave me, I like Bushi and Teton moving forward the best.
They haven't really pushed them as hard as I thought, because I thought they were going to win the titles from Akira and TJP in their first match, and they didn't. But they did come all the way back sort of in this tournament to get back to 12 and get into the mix. So you could be right about that. We'll see. I will say this. It's very unpredictable, and that's good. They've set this up to where I have no fucking idea how.
Well, and then you're getting a final though, right? This is a year of the final, so I guess all this is moot. Everything, because I think they're doing the top two teams getting a final.
Yeah, they're doing a final on what's the date on that? They're doing two finals for each tournament on the 14th. Yeah. But you're saying you think there'll be three teams in that, is what you're saying.
I'm saying I think there'll be three teams at Wrestle Kingdom. I don't know about the final. I mean, I guess they could do three teams in the final too, which I really wish they wouldn't. Yeah, I don't think they'll do that. I just think they're going to shoehorn one of those teams in. Because you were asking me, like, which one of these would you have at Wrestle Kingdom? And I was like, I think you might get both, to be honest.
Well, I was just jumping ahead a step. But so you can have the Catch 22 team win their match here and then lose to somebody in the final.
Right.
Yeah, so you can definitely
they could lose
do
to
that.
Bushi and Teton, or they could lose to Bay and Austin or whatever, and then do it that way.
Yeah, well, they're facing Bay and Austin in the final match.
Yeah. Sorry.
But yeah, it could be Rush, Rush and Yo or the LIP team or whatever, and then face them in the final 2 days later. On the heavyweight side, the big push has gone to Aussie Open, and to me, they've been the best team as well. But there's a lot of heavyweight matches left, and it's too many to work out. Plus, the Fale Chase Owens team is out, and people are getting free wins against them. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that Aussie Open drew them on the final block night. Let me double check that. And if that's the case, they did. So if the intent was to have Aussie Open get upset on the final night by Fale and Owens, that's out the window, and they're going to have to rebook some shit. But I have a suspicion that Aussie Open are going to the finals of this thing regardless. The question is who they go in there with. But they're only 7 matches in, so there's 2 matches left, and we don't really have time to go.
No. And they've been in big time spots too. They've been in main events. They've been getting, not only are they having the best matches, they have been put in top spots. I mean, to me, it's so clear that they're winning this thing. Like, they have to be. Like, the way they've been positioned on the cards, the way the matches have gone, to me, they're very, very, very clearly winning this thing. I'd be stunned if another team wins the World Tag League.
So I'm wondering if I discounted it, but I'm wondering if there's a scenario where you can get just 2 teams on the junior side with 14 points on the final night. I guess you can. I guess I didn't think you could, but you can, because you could have the winner of the Chaos LIJ match and the winner of the Catch 22 Bullet Club match, and then Sauce Hearts gets upset like I thought they would. So maybe we overthought this, because you could easily have 2 teams finish with 14 and go to the final. Just the winners of those 2 matches. So you wouldn't need...
Okay,
you wouldn't need tiebreakers to determine who goes to that final, because you can end up with a clean 2.
Yeah, you just got to get Sauce Hearts out of there. But that's we came up with that scenario last week of how they're out of there.
Yeah. So that's what they're going to do with the junior tournament. I kind of overthought that one. But the heavyweight tournament, there's too many teams in the mix. Aussie Open has the 12, and really they have 14, because they're going to get the 2 points for the Bullet Club match. And then you have TMDK and Naito and Sonata with 10, and Goto and Yoshihashi are sitting at 10 as well. And I don't know if Yano and Tanahashi are eliminated with the 8, because they can get to 12. They wouldn't be. I'd have to look at all the matchups, because I think they could still finish second. They can't finish first, but they could finish second. But then it just comes down to, who do you think they're going to put potentially in a match with FTR at Wrestle Kingdom? And I think it's going to be Aussie Open.
Right. I think that's, to me, so clearly the match. You're not doing Naito and Sonata. You're not doing Goto and Yoshi. Like, it's Aussie Open FTR is the match you want to have at Wrestle Kingdom. And then that's hopefully the way that they're going, the direction that they're going. So we'll see.
Yeah, so we'll know all of this by next week's show, because this will all be finished.
Right. What we do know, Joe, moving on to our next topic here, All Japan Pro Wrestling Junior Battle of Glory Real World Tag League. They all wrapped up earlier today. I think, are the shows that you haven't watched, they're not, I don't even know if they're live yet. I'm always a little bit behind on watching my All Japan. It usually, when there's some downtime, I'll check in on All Japan. So I don't know if those shows are even live yet. I think they're live now. So you go to alljapan.tv and watch them.
No, they're all up.
Have you seen them yet? No,
I'm still behind on that tournament.
Okay.
I'm caught up on New Japan. I'm behind on All Japan. But we know that Aoyagi won the Junior Battle of Glory. So we talked about how weak that field was last week. They went with the champion, which is rare in these things.
It shows you how weak it was. It was like, whatever, just have them win.
They just said, fuck it. We're going with the champ. And then in the tag side, with Ashino out, who knows if this was rebooked or whatnot. But it came down to Miyahara and Takuya Nomura versus Suji Ishikawa and Cyrus, who I was rooting for to win the tournament. But it ended up being Miyahara and Nomura. So Miyahara, who's already Triple Crown champ, and now he wins the tag league as well with Nomura. So, but who knows if that was a change of plans? Maybe we'll never know. We probably will never know. But there you go. So, maybe Miyahara will be a double champion before long. When are they doing? I guess Aoyagi can't face himself, but when are they doing a potential title match? Do you know that or no?
I don't know if I have that. Maybe somebody in the Noto chat room can let us know. I don't know. I don't know if they have a Korakuen show on January 3rd, New Year's week, so I don't know if that's been announced for that show yet. I don't think I saw anything for that, but somebody could let us know if they have announced that, but I don't believe they have just yet, so we'll see.
Yeah, so it'd be Suwama and Masayuki Kono defending against Miyahara and Takuya Nomura at some point.
Soon.
At some point.
Yeah.
So, but we don't know when. But those tournaments are wrapped up. The New Japan tournaments will be wrapped up. What I say the date was in the final, the 14th?
Yes, yeah, 14th.
Oh, maybe it won't be because the 14th is. Well, yeah, if we do a show on Thursday, it'll.
Yeah, if we're doing it Thursday, we'll be good to go.
So, because it'll end that morning, and I'll try to get that watched, at least the important matches. Hey, listen, Bright Lights. Bright Lights.
Bright Lights is going to be there. Yeah, of course. The bright lights of the Sendai Sun Plaza. It's a Sun Plaza, so I can imagine it being pretty bright there.
And it, fits the gimmick. So we'll have the never open weight match and the two finals of the tournaments, and we can. That'll be on next week's show, along with Final Battle and along with the NXT show. So it'll be a loaded show next week. No time for your shenanigans.
No. Just get right down to professional wrestling discussion. I can't wait next week. No Christmas talk. No, wrestling on this here wrestling podcast. Speaking of wrestling, Dragongate had a free Korakuen Hall show this week. So if you are on the fence, hey, I don't know if I really want to pay for Dragongate Network, I don't know, you can watch the show for free. You just have to give them your email address and probably get some emails here and there every so often. But the December 6th show from Korakuen Hall is free. You just got to go to Dragongate Network and you can sign up English and Japanese commentary. I thought it was a very fun show. I watched all of it. We're a little low on time, so I'm not going to go match by match with the reviews or whatever. Main event, go out of your way to check this one out. You especially, Joe. Yuki Yoshioka defends the Dreamgate title against Masaki Mochizuki. They go about 26 minutes. It fucking rules. Mochizuki is just the best, even though he's, 53, 54 years old. I mean, just timeless guy. He's still as good as he's ever been. It's just absolutely absurd that he's as good as he still is. Yoshioka, I think, had a really good performance here as well. Just a solid as hell match. A really, really good main event. So definitely want to check that one out. In general, I thought it was a pretty good show. They debuted a new guy from their dojo that looks pretty solid. They got a lot of good stuff going up and down the card on Dragongate. And I know that you have kind of been kind of wishy-washy on Dragongate this year and the vibes and all that sort of stuff. I would say the vibes of this show were good. This felt like a very much, it does feel like a lot of the dead weight and the weirdness of whatever was happening the last 6 months or last year or whatever has kind of lessened, and there's really only one, anchor still there, Ultimo Dragon, who's still kind of hanging around, but everybody else is pretty much either Dragongate guys or guys that, are in their dojo coming up or whatever. So it does feel like we're pretty much back to where we need to be with Dragongate, which is very good. It makes me feel a lot better that we're there. And one of the things that happened on this show is after the high-end Ryu and Yoshida match against the Z-Brats, a very familiar song played, and it was Shingo Takagi making his return to Dragongate for the first time in years. He's going to team with BB Hulk on the December 25th, the Final Gate show against Kakuta and Yamato at that show. So Shingo, with his old Dragongate music, appears back in Dragongate. So that was a cool moment. The crowd just went nuts for that as well. Went wild to see Shingo back in Dragongate. And that helped the vibes of the show too, because you're like, fuck yeah, Shingo's back. There's no Nosawa on here. Only Ultimo Dragon still kind of hanging around. A lot of the dirt bags are gone. So it feels pretty good, Dragongate right now. So I definitely check that show out if you're interested in watching Dragongate. Again, it's free. I don't know how long it's going to be free for, so maybe get on that as sooner rather than later. But it is free. December 6th, Korakuen Hall show on English and Japanese commentary.
All right.
And then we have these Christmas New Year's topics. I guess I'll real quickly go over these since we're already bouncing around Japan. Not a ton to this, but this is always a big time for Japanese wrestling. The Christmas week and then New Year's week is always a big deal. And right now we have a bunch of shows going on between the 23rd and the 25th, including that Final Battle show that I talked about as well. A lot of major stuff happening on New Year's week as well. And these are just the promotions that we regularly follow and watch. So sorry, Wave and 666 and Michinoku Pro, we are not going to mention you here, but you got Noah the New Year. That's going to be on January 1st again. So kick off the new year with what looks like a really, really fun show. Nakamura versus Great Muta. We'll preview this, obviously, as we get a little bit closer. Kiyomiya and Kano for the GHC heavyweight title. And then Kojima and Sugiura defending their titles against Kenta and Naomichi Marufuji. Hell yes. There, GHC tag team title match there between those two. 0-1, our annual. Are you excited to watch 0-1 for the first and last time in 2023?
Hey, I mean, they don't make tape too much. Sometimes I watch everything, but I always watch.
The Happy New Year's show. Yeah, Masato Tanaka defending the 0-1. He's got to be like 9 years into that reign at this point, right? Like, I feel like Masato Tanaka's just always the champion. Well, it was that Beef Boy for a while. What was that guy's name? I love him. He's in GLEAT now.
That guy's long gone. That
guy rocked. But Masato Tanaka's your champion now, and he's going to be defending against Masa Kitamiya, who is a perfect 0-1 guy. A perfect 0-1 guy. Masa Kitamiya. I love it. So that's going to be the Happy New Year's show. So we'll do our annual Let's Talk About 0-1 for a week show. Big Japan
He feels like he's been champion forever because, I mean, he won it on the New Year's show in 2021. Held it for a long time. Takashi Sugiura came and won it and held it for a while, and then Tanaka beat him back.
Okay.
So Tanaka has had it really for like the better part of 2021 and 2022, with the exception of about a 7-month period, I guess, where Sugiura had it in between. So he sandwiched the long Sugiura run with 2 long Masato Tanaka runs.
Yeah.
And the GLEAT guy is, I believe you're thinking of Hayato Tamura.
Hayato Tamura, yeah, he was that big beef boy. I love that guy.
He's the GLEAT guy, and he's got, I don't know, I don't watch GLEAT, so I don't know how he's doing, but he showed some potential in 0-1. But look, they may as well just keep it on Tanaka at this point. I don't anticipate.
That's a great guy to put that.
I mean, he could. I mean, they've done weird things with that belt. Again, Sugiura just held it, and so you never know. But no, I'll be into their New Year's show anyway. I didn't mean to cut you off, but anyway, that's our 0-1, and we'll do more 0-1 talk after that show.
Yeah, we'll do our annual. Hey, 0-1's kind of cool. We should watch this, and then it never makes tape, and then we don't watch it because it doesn't make tape. It makes tape like 4 times a year at this point, so it's hard to keep up on the 0-1. Big Japan, they're running January 2nd. They always do their big strong title match here. Yuji Okabayashi, a guy who's also been champion, I believe, for 9 straight years, against Kamatani. So that feels like a match that they've probably done a bunch of times too. So. Did you
watch the Okabayashi Sekimoto match from earlier this year?
Yes.
Throwback to. Oh, you did. Yeah, it was
like loved it. And I remember we had that discussion. I said, this used to be able to just watch Japanese wrestling, and these types of matches happen all the time. Now they're very rare. You know what I mean? Like, they very rarely happen. This type of, it's just the bell rings and 2 guys just beat the fuck out of each other. You know what I mean? Like, that so rarely happens now. But when I started first watching Japanese wrestling, that was, I mean, you see it all the fucking time. But yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't as good as their vintage matches they've had against each other, but there was a nostalgic feel about it.
Yeah.
Watching those 2 guys wrestle each other. For that title, especially.
It felt like 2011, like 2011, 2013, somewhere in that range. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And I think Okabayashi will have a full year-long reign by the time the second rolls around. So,
because I'm looking right now. He won it at last year's New Year's show. So yeah, he will have a full year then.
Yeah. So that's. The new year is always a fresh start where you can say, all right, I'll give these promotions a chance, and we'll see how long they hold my attention. That's the way I look at it.
A bunch of other ones running as well. I don't know how many of these are going to make tape. 2AW is going to be there. We used to be a 2AW show. Maybe we'll be a 2AW show again. Probably not. All Japan is in Korakuen. Like I said, Stardom is running on the 3rd. Obviously, Wrestle Kingdom on January 4th. New Year Dash from New Japan happening on January 5th. And then Dragongate happening on January 7th as well. But there's a ton of other shows. Michinoku Pro does their annual Christmas show that some gifts come out of, Great Sasuke doing something insane every single year. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. But we always, I love this time of year because it's a great time to, like you said, sample all these promotions that you don't really watch all that much, and they all have really hot crowds and good shows. And then they kind of go back into their exodus again, and you just don't really watch them again. But I was, the beginning of the year always starts where I'm like, all right, this year I'm watching every 0-1 match that makes tape, and then I don't. So
Some years I do. Like certain promotions will hold your attention and others won't, and you never know which
we were on a 3-month thing. I mean, sure, there was no other wrestling going on in the world, but still, it was still. I got into 2AW for a little while, and sometimes that happens. But maybe if it's going to happen, it's going to start on New Year's week.
You go through little phases, and sometimes it's all right. This year, I'm really into this promotion, or they just fall by the wayside. And what you do is you just check out their big title matches when they come around, and some promotions you don't even do that for. It all depends. And before you end that music, Rich, I guess one more quick topic as we bounce around Japan that deserves a little talk. Jake Lee, it will not be re-signing with All Japan.
Oh,
so he will be on his way to Destination Unknown in 2023. What do you think of Jake Lee leaving All Japan, and where do you think would be a good landing spot for Jake Lee?
Yeah, I think he strikes me as a guy. I mean, we know he tried to get himself into the G1 this year, and that didn't quite work out very well. I don't know where would Jake Lee fit in the. I think he could fit in anywhere. Like, honestly, Jake Lee can fit in anywhere. Like, you can find a spot for him, not as like the guy that's like one of your top dogs, or not a guy that's thought of as being one of the top dudes in your company. He's not that. Like, he's just not that guy, and that's fine. That's okay. Throw him in Noah, he'd be perfectly fine as like the 10th most important guy in Noah. Throw him in New Japan, he'd be perfectly good as like the 11th, 12th, 13th, somewhere in that range, best guy. He could be an LIJ and be the 5th, most important guy in LIJ. I think that's probably the best role for him. I'd say if you're leaving All Japan, you must have those companies in mind. Like, I can't imagine where else you would be thinking about going. I mean, I guess DDT would be one option, and I don't think America's in his future at all. But yeah, you're not going to leave All Japan to go, do stuff in 2AW or Big Japan or Zero. You know what I mean? Like, you're not leaving the company to do that. So I'd imagine it's either New Japan, Noah, maybe DDT, and I don't know where else he could possibly be going.
I don't know how much further ahead in the pecking order All Japan is from those other places, though, at this point. So it's really.
Well, to me, it'd be like a linear move. If you're gonna go, like, why would you leave All Japan to go do the same bullshit?
Well, maybe he feels like he's hit a ceiling there. They tried it; it didn't work.
And he's not wrong, by the way.
He's not wrong. Look, him leaving, I don't have a problem with.
That's fine.
I think he needs a change of pace. If he went somewhere like New Japan, they would completely repackage him. That's what they do with people. And maybe they have a great idea for him that would work, that would give him the charisma he so desperately needs. Maybe they're not interested in all, like they weren't interested in the G1. Maybe he pops up on one of these New Year's shows to challenge one of these champions after one of these championship matches that we just talked about. But it'll be interesting that because he is a name wrestler, he's a former Triple Crown champion, whatever that's worth in this day and age, and he's going to pop up somewhere. So
who are his connections? Like, who are the guys? I know he was he came through the All Japan dojo, right? I think Muto was there at the time.
Yeah, I don't know what his relationship.
But I'm not sure if he's still cool there. And then I don't know. But he's All Japan through and through. But that that means anymore, it doesn't.
Going
really
back to the beginning of the last decade, so it would be Muto and people like that would have brought him up. But I don't know if he has any relationship with Muto. If he does have a relationship with Muto, and Muto's on the way out. But if he does have a good relationship with Muto, can Muto get him into Noah before Muto skedaddles on out? Sure. I don't see him as a fit for Noah, honestly. I mean, how would he fit in politically with all of those shooters and political masterminds? And he already lacks charisma to begin with. He doesn't really work that style.
He'd been eaten alive there.
Yeah, he'd been eaten alive. I don't see Noah as a good fit at all.
Well, I mean, again, like it depends what you want him to be. If you just want him to be a guy, like he's just a dude on your roster, he could fit into Noah. I think you could use him in the mid card or something like that. He get eaten alive, but I think you can use him in the mid card, and that's where New Japan would be too. And does he want that? Is that really what you leave All Japan to do? Is go become a mid card guy in a bigger company?
I'm looking at the chat. Gerard makes a good point. He did leave to do MMA. You think those Noah guys would respect him because of that?
That's right. Probably.
That's an angle. That's an angle I didn't think of.
Stupidly, yes, probably, yeah.
Because I hadn't considered that. Because I'll be honest, I forgot he did MMA. But I don't know. It wouldn't stun me again if he popped up in one of these Big Japans or 01s at the turn of the year. because maybe he wants to be a big fish in a small pond to prove that he could be the guy. You know, if he goes to New Japan, I see a massive repackage. He doesn't feel like a fit in Noah to me, but who knows? But, you know, we'll see when contract time comes around. You know, All Japan, you know, they could be on some shaky financial ground. Maybe he's not the only one.
Right. And we've seen that. We've seen that, unfortunately, with companies that are on the not doing well. Is there's always tends to be a little bit of a, you know, hey, if you want to go, you can go. You know, like they're not keeping the guys. You know, and that happens a lot. And All Japan, especially over the last couple of years, has been very open to just like, hey, if you want to go, feel free to go, man. We're not gonna, you know, we're not gonna stop you if you want to go.
They could use the freshening up with some of the new faces they have, and maybe get Jake Lee out of there. And, you know, maybe downcycle Tsuji Ishikawa since he's washed up. And I think that'll be good for all. I think All Japan is going to look a lot different next year. And that's not bad. That, I think, is a good thing.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
All right. I think we have bounced. I think we've sufficiently bounced. And I think we've sufficiently done this show. So, of course, voicesofwrestling.com, where you get all of the previews, reviews, columns, all that other good stuff. We are on Patreon as well, as we talked about. Flagshippatreon.com, patreon.com/Voices of Wrestling. Instant reaction for this weekend for ROH Final Battle, as well as a reaction show to the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame audio, Wrestling Hall of Fame results coming up very, very soon as well for that. And yeah, voicesofwrestling.com, as I said, Discord, voicesofwrestling.com/Discord if you want to join the conversation there. And yeah, I think that is it. So for Joe, I'm Rich, and we'll talk to you next time on the Flagship Podcast. Take care.
You're not just some reckless rookie, YOLOing your portfolio, ready to risk it all on some shiny new coin. You're on Robinhood now. Trading ETFs, tracking the S&P, working that DCA. You're breaking free from bots, bankers, and all that bull. You're doing it all, and on your terms. Because no one runs your money like you. Stocks and ETFs offered by Robinhood Financial LLC. Member SIPC. Crypto offered by Robinhood Crypto LLC. All investing involves risk.